Hey everybody, this is Drew.
And this is Blake.
And you're listening to the Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Controllers podcast.
Welcome to NPR. Our episode is number 141. I want to thank everyone for joining. Before we get into I think we announced it last episode, it's a bit of a palate cleanse. It's not...
Yeah, did we say what we're talking about? Did we say the Yakuza?
I don't think we did. But it's a bit of a palate cleanse, and so we've been doing these after guest episodes just to try to just talk about some stuff that we have played, but it's... Now, it's not that these games aren't worth talking about, so we have talked about it previously before. We just want to talk about that we've finished the main line.
Yeah, various. Well, the palette cleanses are not always Yakuza games.
Yeah.
We're not being very clear on what this is. It's something we want to do after guests just to kind of reset a little bit. I think previously we picked 2 or 3 random games. Now, we say it's not games we didn't like. This is different because Yakuza is different. Normally these episodes are going to be games, a handful of games we beat that we don't think we could carry a whole episode. Yakuza can carry a whole life.
Sure.
But we just want to do this because Blake recently finished the original main line. So we'll talk about that.
But before we dive too much further into it...
We made this so confusing. We made this so confusing when it doesn't have to be.
I know. But before we get into that, I just want to go ahead and shoot through our social media preamble. You can find us on all the big social medias, including some of the smaller ones. Just type the name of the podcast. It'll pop up, no problem. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. The most important thing is that we have our Twitch channel that we do now... this is pretty much set in stone at this point whenever we get a chance. It's usually Wednesday nights from 9:30 Central to midnight. Mm-hmm. That's usually how it falls.
It does. We're doing pretty good on that.
We're doing pretty good. Now, occasionally because holidays and whatnot, but majority of the time, that's our schedule. And then for me, myself, just this last week, I did start... I'm going through... Because I was trying to find more content, and I was...
And RoboCop, I think all the RoboCop is out.
Yeah, RoboCop's... All of the RoboCop videos are out. And so what I settled on, I actually did it last Friday. I wanted to do Friday Night Magic. Mm-hmm. And I sat down to the original one, the Magic 2010 or something. And I was just going to go through all the campaign and do some voices and have a good time. But there's some weird... bug in the code that whenever you turn it on Xbox Series X, that the AI for the opponents
only plays land. It doesn't play any other. It just plays land. And I played that for
45 minutes, and I was like, something is definitely wrong. Did my research, and I found out that that's wrong. So this last Friday, I started the second one, the 2012 one, and that one went much smoother. Mm-hmm. Opponent was attacking. I actually lost my first match. Spoilers. But I'll be working and editing, getting a couple of those and editing those out and putting those. I'm not going to do all the Magic games back to back, but I will do one and find something else to come back. Because I do enjoy Magic the Gathering.
You love Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
You don't just enjoy it. It's one of your favorite hobbies that you just don't have time for.
I don't have time or money for.
Yeah. And you need people to play with.
Yeah. People who aren't jerks.
You're playing against AI for this.
But yeah, please keep an eye. Check our Twitch for that, for our co-op endeavors with our podcast editor / cousin Brian.
Yep, all that stuff drops on the YouTube channel later.
Yes, that's another thing. We are working with a new distributor.
Podcast distributor, yeah.
Distributor.
I think I mentioned in the past, Spotify is wiping out podcasts that have even a second of music on them.
Yeah.
I'll be on the front end. There's a bunch of our episodes that were pulled by Spotify. It's going to take an exorbitant amount of work to get those episodes back online, even with a new distributor. I don't know how much time it will take or how much I even plan on doing. It's going to take so much work because they wiped everything. They wiped the audio. They wiped my episode descriptions. They wiped everything. So I'm going to have to go back to. I was going to start doing it, and then I realized what they had done to me, and I'm not sure how much I want to do on putting out. They wiped about 40 episodes of our backlog. 45 episodes of our backlog, just wiped them off the internet. So we've changed distributors to hopefully avoid that in the future. We'll see how that goes. If anybody follows the podcast may have noticed that our episodes are now starting to drop on YouTube. That is a perk of the new distributor. It's a cool thing. It's a cool thing they do. They take our audio and just generate just a background video. It's not even a video, but they generate a thing, and then our audio plays over the screen. Looks nice.
Yeah. And shout out to a previous guest, Garrett. We were talking last night actually, and he said that because he works from home, he doesn't get to listen to a podcast as much anymore. But he says because it's on YouTube, it auto captions, and he's able to play it on his computer, and he can kind of like read along and he found a way to listen.
I wouldn't say that's the best way to listen to a podcast, but it's an additional perk we didn't think of. Or if it's interesting, he found a way to listen using YouTube. Yeah, so which is kind of cool. So our episodes are going to start. They should start. I have to go backwards and like automatically manually trigger. You don't care about this. I'm working on getting the old episodes onto YouTube as well. From this episode forward, right here, they should automatically be launching on YouTube. There's our tidying up. We're spending too much time on this about stuff people ain't going to care about. Besides wondering why episodes were disappearing, or why there's big gaps in our episodes. But they may or may not come back. But moving forward, things should be better.
And besides all that cool, interesting, fun stuff, we do have a Patreon that you can help us name episodes, which is pretty cool. And you get to see the unedited version of before Brian gets his magical hands on it and touches it all over. And then we do have a store. We have koozies, beanies,
same
shirts.
Stuff. Yeah,
same stuff. I don't know if you gone back and added all the guest shirts yet?
No, that takes a lot.
I know, I'm sure.
I wish we're never going to be a big podcast. It'd be nice to have somebody that would go do that.
do it for you.
Do that for me. There's just things. You hear all the other podcasts out there. Obviously, we listen to a range of not famous to famous people, and like the famous ones, just like they just record and walk away from it.
Oh yeah,
and everything is handled for them. It's like, God, what a life just to spend 90 minutes recording and then everything else about it, because we got Brian for editing and I do all the distribution.
I just show up and walk away.
Yeah, well, you do more on the video side now, but it'd be nice just to have people just do it for you. Oh, the life of a slightly more famous podcaster. But no, I haven't put any more shirts on there.
That's true. No harm, no foul.
I did one for and I'm not. I guess it's kind of rude to say one art's better than any other art, but like. The Clyde art with the Final Fantasy VII was too good to pass up. Yeah. So there's a shirt for that one for the.
That just means you're selfish because you were included in that art.
Well, that and that's one of the only other shirts I've got. I actually got I think you got one too.
I think I got one too.
Yeah. I don't know if we should have bought and sent Clyde one too. Anyway, we're rambling on the beginning of this. We got a lot of game to talk about.
But yeah, that being said, please check us on all the socials, and we're gonna hop to it.
Yeah, twitch.tv/Two Smoking Controllers every Wednesday. Currently Dark Souls 1. Brian's having a great time. Blake is having okay time. I'm tagging along.
That's fair. But now we're getting to the piece de resistance. We're doing episode 141, which is crazy to think about.
41
by itself.
It's still going.
Now, Drew said it earlier, this is a company we've spoken about actually twice before.
Yeah, because you did the Berserk game. No, not Berserk. What was it?
Fist of the North Star.
Fist of the North Star.
Lost of Paradise.
All animes are the same.
That's fair. They have a protagonist, antagonist, and fighting. But we're not going to spend a lot of time on any one in particular, but we are doing the second half of the Yakuza series, because we did do Yakuza 1, or Yakuza 0, Kiwami 1, and Kiwami 2 on episode 36.
Oh my God, 100 episodes, over 100 episodes ago.
And then episode 38 is when we did Fist of the North Star, Lost Paradise.
And nothing since then, because there's just too many Yakuza games. We're going to talk about that. Not too many. It's a good thing. The company's doing great. We're really happy for them.
So just a brief, because I've spoken about them before, but it has been a long time, so I'll just do a quick brief overview. It's Ryuga Gotoku is our developer. Now, they have had several name changes to their history. They're owned by Sega.
Well, they are owned by Sega.
Yeah,
I didn't know. I didn't know they were. You might have been mentioned that before. I didn't know they were a subsidiary. Well, I know all their games are published through Sega. I guess that would make sense for them to be.
Well, because they're original. Because it's one of those things where their original names were AM11, R&D 4, R&D Department. And then they had like some other random names in the middle. That was like
now they're the biggest thing Sega has. They can be called whatever they want to be called. They're like the only. Name another game that Sega has that's keeping that company going right now. Yeah. It's not a Yakuza game. Come on, give me one. I'll put you on the spot.
Sonic.
When's the last Sonic game come out?
Like last year, wasn't it?
Yeah. Did it sell really good?
The Sonic movies made enough money. We're fine.
You think the Sonic movies and the Yakuza games are carrying Sega?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
What other? No offense to Sega, but what other?
I don't know. We talked about Sega on our Shining Force episode. We love for them to bring. I don't know if they own Shining Force. We'd love to bring Shining Force, the original ones, to come back.
But just some other cool things. Actually, one cool little note. I'm not going to go through everything. I'm just going to specifically focus on Ryuga Gotoku. Yeah. The first time they ever actually got to use the name Ryuga Gotoku was when they did the standalone game Binary Domain. Remember that?
But what a random.
Yeah, that's the first game they
I wouldn't know they made that game.
I wouldn't either. But that's the first time they used Ryuga Gotoku as a name and a logo.
Somebody talked about that game. I think on the other podcast I heard on Play Watch Listen I heard Troy Baker talk about that game. Is he in that game?
He probably may have did some voice work in it.
He might have did some voice work. I feel like he made fun of the game or something like that. I don't know. We played Binary Domain. I don't remember it. Yeah. But I know we played it because we went back in our playing on the GameFly somewhere way back when.
So they actually they have a couple of things kind of up under the belts now. They have Binary Domain. Then they have a spin-off series of the Yakuza called Judgment, which they only did 2 of those because something happened with the lead actor. I'm not entirely sure.
You didn't find out? I was curious.
Well, I didn't go because we're not going to talk about Judgment.
Well, I wouldn't briefing because I played Judgment now.
Yeah, but I haven't. So
I know, but I was going to talk about. I'm going to briefly talk about it and why I told you not to bother. Yeah, not a bad game. But.
And so they officially got control or whatever of the Like a Dragon series in 2012. Okay. So they made the other ones under the Sega moniker and under R&D, this, that, and the other. But as of 2012, Like a Dragon is their property, is Ryuga Gotoku's.
Yeah. Well, Yakuza now Like a Dragon.
Which is funny because that only means that's like 5 and 6 and 4. Because all the other ones were like made prior.
This is about well, no, because the Kwamis are fairly new. So this is when they did the Kwami remakes are around that time. The Kwami remakes are newer than that.
You say that, but not really.
I thought the Kwamis were newer. They're PS4 era, ain't they?
I mean, but they I have them right here as Ryuga Gotoku. Their games, as of 2012, Yakuza 5, Yakuza 0, Kiwami, Song of Life, Kiwami 2.
Yeah, because we played them so kind of late, I guess.
So it goes all the way up. The last thing that apparently Dead Souls was the last one that they didn't have the name for, and then 5 and 4 is under Ryuga Gotoku.
So that's probably why we hadn't seen Dead Souls yet.
Yeah, because it's like in a little limbo area.
Limbo. Well, as successful as they are right now, I feel like Sega, whoever owns it, would give them anything they want.
Yeah, but because of their success, I see 2 other franchises here that they have gained control of through Sega. They've been given the property, but I haven't seen them do any games for it yet, which has me a little worried.
They're cranking out Like a Dragon games left and right. Like Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii just came out. And we're talking, Matt, if anybody's noticed the game, Like a Dragon 1, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, and Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii are all massive, like gigantic games. So they're busy.
Yeah. Yeah, but one of the other names they were known under is Amusement Vision. And Amusement Vision is responsible for Super Monkey Ball and F-Zero.
There's the Super Monkey Ball team?
Part of their people are. Because apparently Amusement Vision was a separate team that they merged into them when they were still doing what do you call it? R&D Team 4A or whatever.
Super Monkey Ball is definitely a Sega franchise, not a...
But it does say that as of 2019, Ryuga Gotoku does own Super Monkey Ball as of 2019.
Sega would let them have that.
That's strange. They don't own. I didn't see. They don't own F-Zero, so maybe that's still floating around somewhere in there. But the other thing they have now too, which kind of makes sense considering how the Yakuza, at least
I thought F-Zero was a Nintendo property.
Mm-hmm. I didn't do enough research on that.
We were trying to talk about Yakuza.
But the other thing is, as of 2021. They are now the owners of Virtua Fighter, which makes sense considering some of these beat 'em ups and stuff like that, and some of the mini games and stuff you do in this are 2D fighting games.
The Sega properties in the arcades.
So I mean, if they put out Virtua Fighter and they're like, "Hey, Kitty using Virtua Fighter," I'd be
for any of them, any of the massive cast of characters.
I'd be totally down for that, but
I would not. I don't play fighting games anymore.
Well, whatever. Well, here it says one of the things is as Amusement Vision. One of the last things that Amusement Vision did before it was merged was the Game Boy Advanced remake of Shining Force Resurrection of Dark Dragon. It's the last thing they did before they.
Yeah. So I've wanted to play that. And we got to talk about Yakuza.
Yeah, no.
I've wanted to play that because we have that. Well, we have that through certain means. We have that game. And I've been seeing a lot of screenshots of that on our online on Reddit and stuff like that. That art looks like crap.
It doesn't look as good.
Does it look bad? So you seen the art for the game? And I get excited because Game Boy Advance games generally look pretty cool, you know. But that remake, man, looks kind of gross,
kind of iffy.
Yeah, so I don't know if I want to. There's extra characters and stuff I wanted to see and some expanded plot, and I was like, I kind of want to play it, but God, it's ugly as crap, man.
Yeah, like I said, just some other games, like obviously all the Yakuza games, including the spinoffs like Ishin, Kazan, and stuff like that. Zero, Kiwami. And then one other cool thing I just noticed is they did do an HD remake of Super Monkey Ball called Banana Blitz. They actually put that out in 2019.
Yeah, we have. It's like one of the random Switch games we don't have.
Yeah, and then there was the Virtua Fighter 5 Ultimate Showdown. Then there was another Monkey Ball they put out. Another Monkey Ball they put. That was just a Switch version. Then another Virtua Fighter, and then the most recent thing they've put out is Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, which has been. And
they've announced a new. I don't have the name in front of me, but they announced a new franchise.
I don't know about that. I don't know, but 3 things. Is later this year for the Switch 2, they're putting out Yakuza 0 Director's Cut, which has even more content.
Yeah, apparently people's had that in their hands. And you want to take a guess how it plays?
I'm sure it plays awful.
That's what I've heard off of one podcast or somebody who had their hands on it. That the additional content does not make it worth playing because it plays so poorly.
Yeah, and so to be announced, they have an untitled Virtua Fighter game that they're working on, and something just called Project Century.
That's the new one.
There's no information on that. Besides
I think there was a teaser of a guy smoking a cigarette. That's what I've seen.
Yeah,
just some new protagonist. I'm guessing it'll be some because they do whatever they want. The turn-based stuff we're going to talk about we haven't played yet. Is popping off so hard that I feel like they needed something to hold on to the Yakuza roots, and my guess would be Project Century would be more of the brawler, kind of like the Yakuza game. We'll talk about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, but I don't know exactly that's
the teaser now. The Summer Games Fest is happening over the soon. I don't know. We don't want to hard to date the podcast. Summer Games Fest is happening soonish. That's the time they would announce something, show more like, especially since Pirate Yakuza Hawaii is out and beloved already. Now it's time to show you a new game, you know?
They've been going like crazy.
Busy company.
That's just kind of like a rehashing, and then they've gotten more successful since we originally talked about them.
Yeah, it's crazy because we'll talk about. Square Enix continually says turn-based gaming is dead, and then every turn-based game that comes out pops off so hard. Like it has reinvented what. Because people don't know, Infinite Wealth, Like a Dragon 1 and 2 Infinite Wealth changed to a turn-based combat system and popped off so hard it brought Ryuga Gotoku.
Yeah,
I got the name in front of me. It brought them from like a niche developer of making these weird Japanese games to the spotlight and have blown this company up so much that now all the old Yakuza games are huge. From here forward, it's gigantic. Ishin was a big deal. Man Who Erased His Name. All these things like the term-based swap of this franchise brought this to the mainstream.
And I saw a thing the other day.
Turn-based gaming's dead, Square Enix.
Yeah, well, this hasn't anything to do with Yakuza, but I saw a thing because it has a lot to do with. I saw some high-up CEO said that they didn't think that turn-based RPGs were worth the fans were worth the time and effort to make. Some big. He has a lot of bad publicity for making this statement public. Mm-hmm. I forget the dude's name.
CEO is always saying dumb,
some
super
CEO.
dumb
It
stuff.
was a CEO or something of EA, and then like right behind it, they're like, "Oh yeah," and it was bad. It was with Obscure. What's that one?
Claire Obscure.
Yeah,
popping off massively.
And they've sold. I think at the time,
3 million copies.
Time of that article was like 3.3 million copies, and they're like, "Yeah." Turn-based is dead, and then right behind that, so people were adding on like, look at this one, like Chained Echoes did pretty well, and then there's all the fantasy Final Fantasy rematch, like everything's
and there's all the Dragon Quest games, people loving them,
and then all the and they're like, turn-based is dead.
Yeah, there's been so much more talk of Claire Obscure like in the zeitgeist than there was ever any talk of Final Fantasy 16. Final Fantasy 16 came out and puttered away,
and same thing goes for Veilguard.
I had to think about what that was for
Dragon
a second.
Age Veilguard, formerly called Dreadwolf.
Yeah.
But
anyway.
So turn-based RPGs are not dead. This isn't the turn-based RPG, but podcast or anything like that. But they've significantly helped.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, they're massive. Mm-hmm. It's way more. This is that whatever this podcast to be whatever we want it to be. I'll take a turn-based game over an action game any freaking day of the week because it's so much more engaging and entertaining. I feel mashing on an attack button to kill something feels meaningless. Yeah. There's nothing. There's no joy. There's no nothing to it. There's just nothing. And thinking about what you need to do in a turn-based game is always so much more engaging. Well, people are like, it moves too slow. It moves too slow. No, you're just too stupid. You're flat out just too stupid, and you want to mash on buttons. That's fine. Stop complaining and go mash on buttons somewhere. I guess I should say the same thing. Stop complaining and go take your turn somewhere. Yeah. It goes both ways, but whatever. There's nothing more boring than match. I quit a game recently. I quit Ni no Kuni 2 because all you do is mash on attack until things die. I really like Ni no Kuni 1, and it's a version of turn-based combat. I feel like
the first one was
turn-based combat. Ni no Kuni 1, Ni no Kuni 2, you just mash on the attack button, and it's so insanely boring that I turned it off. I just can't. And when you talk about like Final Fantasy 16 is the most boring game I've played in a decade.
And because it was so... This isn't the 16, this is the Yakuza thing, but I'll say something about this and then we're going to switch back over to Yakuza before we go off too far on a tangent. But the thing with 16, because it was so cinematic, you couldn't beat the boss any faster than the game allowed you to. Mm-hmm. And then when you would hit... Like when you'd hit these big cinematic moments and you did the QTE and it was like, you did 19 million damage, which is ultimately worthless.
It's just cinematic, yeah.
Yeah, so just having a big number, I did 19 million damage. No, you did what the game wanted you to do in order to get to this point of the cinematic. Yep. And it was just bah humbug. But this is Yakuza. We're going to celebrate Yakuza, specifically 3, 4, 5, and 6 Song of Life, which is their first one that has a subtitle. Everything else was Yakuza 1 through 5.
Yeah, it's weird. And maybe because they were wrapping up.
It was
the quote-unquote wrapping up
It's
Kiryu's
supposed to be the ending of Kiryu's story, but
he's too loved, apparently.
He's too loved, and then the other games popped off too hard, and people were like, well, where's Kiryu? And they're like, well...
Apparently so. Our talk of this is limited to... We know Kiryu is in... We know he's in Like a Dragon 1 and 2.
Yeah.
We know he's in there... We don't know the plot. Don't message us the plots. We don't want to know if we want to play him. So we know that he's in there. Blake may and we haven't played Like a Dragon, or what's it called?
Ishin. I think it's called Ishin.
No, Like a Dragon, the Man Who Erased His Name.
Yeah,
which apparently is a Kiryu game. Because I played 6 before Blake did, so I understood the name. I just don't know what that game covers exactly. But at the end of there's gonna be some spoilers, by the way. If you haven't played the Yakuza games, spoilers in here because that game comes after the Man Who Erased His Name comes. They released it between the Like a Dragon games. If it did well, they released it between there because Kiryu is in Like a Dragon 1, and because the way Song of Life ends, they're kind of, he's going into like, he's erasing his name and going into hiding to save his family, to save everybody he loves. He's trying to go away because that's just what happens.
But speaking of spoilers,
Lots of games.
we are going to spoil unintentionally. There are cool moments to talk about in each of these games that will, unfortunately, spoil certain points of the plot. So if you haven't played any of the Yakuzas, maybe don't listen to this episode. No offense.
It's a big franchise. We got too much. And we're not going to break down each game. There's too many games. Like originally we did an episode. I don't know what our episode of zero, 1, and 2 is probably awful because there's just too much to say about games, and there's too many Yakuza games to have an episode about each one. We just want to kind of what we're trying to do here, as we already tangent off talking about other games, is just like an appreciation episode of 0 through 6 of the franchise. Because we've played a lot of Yakuza games. Now we've played more Yakuza games than we've played. I've probably played more Yakuza games than I've played Final Fantasy games at this point, which is bonkers to think of. Just about
played and beaten.
Yeah, because I've beat. Let's tangent. I beat Final Fantasy 1, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13, 15, and 16. Was that 8?
Yeah.
Dang, beat more Final Fantasy games than I have Yakuza games.
I mean, have you?
Well, so. Yeah, here we go. 0, 1 through 6. That's 7, and I beat
Judgment.
I'm tied. I'm tied. Boom. I'm tied. So I've played as many Yakuza games as I've played and beat Final Fantasy games. Yeah. Which is, when I first played 0, I would have never thought that I would have been in a place like that.
Which is, for me, still. No, I guess if you count the Pokemon games,
you're higher on Final Fantasy. You did more.
I've done 1, 2, 4 after years.
That's not 2 separate games, though.
I know, but still. And then I've done 7. I don't know if I've beaten 8, but I've seen the ending to 8 enough. I don't know, but I have beat 9. And then
you're unsure about 10.
I'm also unsure about 10 because it was so huge in our childhood that I've seen you guys beat it, but I don't remember if I actually beat it. Yeah. And then there's 13, and all of it's did 13 too as well, and then 15 and 16.
You're 8 as well, but the different numbers.
Yeah, well, and then all the side games and shit.
Yeah. That's weird. It's the games aren't related, but it's kind of fun. Those are another big franchise we play, but
yeah. Sorry for all the tangents.
Yeah. So
we're gonna try to do them in order and briefly talk about each one in cool moments.
I guess. Yeah. Time for that.
I mean, not a lot.
So let's start with we did 0, 1, and 2.
Yeah.
Kwamis. After those are pretty big bombacious games. 0 especially is massive. We're not talking about that more. 1 and 2 are just these crazy. These are it's probably one of the best. Such a phenomenal trilogy of games. And then you play Yakuza 3, which in my opinion is the dullest. It's so strange because also you got to think about the way these are released. So you get 0, which is on their newer Dragon engine. So 0 looks incredible. The game is freaking gigantic. You have 2 protagonists. Apparently, this is probably 0's the first time you play as Majima, more or less.
It's the only time you ever play as Majima.
I think you dabble in one of the later games.
They added him in.
They added him in 1 and 2. So all these games are just. I lost train of thought. Oh, those are all on PS4. Now they're on other consoles now. All PS4. So, but when you go from you play a remake of Yakuza 2 because 1 and 2 are PS2 games. These are full blown. The Kwamis are remakes. So when you go from this, especially 2, because 2 is like running, so like 1 came out and then 2 was on like an updated Dragon engine. So 2 actually looks better and plays even.
It went 0, Kiwami 1, Yakuza 5, Kiwami 2. So Kiwami 2 was the best thing they had, and then 6 happened.
Yeah, but anyway, so you're playing like a super updated version, and then you play 3 and 4 and 5, and these are all PS3 upscale remasters. So there's a huge dip. Doesn't matter in a sense, but there's if you play them in order, there's a massive drop in visual fidelity and some mechanics and stuff like that dips off, and it doesn't help that you help me out here that Yakuza 3, though it has some incredible moments, is the dullest of the whole. I think without doing a lot of research, I feel like when I've looked around about it, it seems to be kind of a black sheep in the franchise. And then you'll notice after 3 and 4 and 5, something weird happens. We'll talk about how the cast expands.
Yeah.
So I feel like 3 takes this weird dip, introduces a bunch of stuff, the orphanage that is barely
It's super important. But
it's important, but never focused on again after this game until it's kind of like the reason he goes into hiding, after Yakuza 6 to protect those kids and, those are the ones he loves. It's never a focal point again I don't remember it being a focal point again after Yakuza 3.
Yeah. So just briefly, I'm not even going to go into it, but briefly the story for 3 is Kiryu has officially left the Yakuza to become a civilian as of the end of 2. He's like, I'm a civilian. I'm not the 4th chairman of the Tojo clan anymore.
The whole plot line of this game forward is that he can't get away.
Exactly.
That's the entire plot line. And that's the base, that's the backbone of the rest of this franchise.
Mm-hmm. So he opens up an orphanage. Depending on, there's a translation error. Sometimes it's called Morning Glory. Sometimes it's called Sunshine, and it changes per the game to per the translation that was added to the game.
It's not important,
not negligible. But yeah, Morning Glory Orphanage, where he raises 9 children because he himself was an orphan, and he wants to try to raise and make people's lives better, like how his parent Kazuma raised him.
Yeah, that's the sadder part of this is he does just want to retire and just run this. It's all he wants to do is not be in the Yakuza and just run this orphanage. It's all he wants to do.
But then, of course, other people who don't know who they're messing with enter his life. These silly businessmen, like, we're going to buy your orphanage because we want to make a beachfront resort, and we're not taking no for an answer. He's like, well, you're going to take no for an answer, and they go, no, we're not. And what are you? What kind of creature are you?
Yeah, you as he pummels people into the ground.
And that's just that's the basis of the story. And then he encounters another smaller Yakuza family.
A local, yeah, because you're not in Kamurocho.
You're in Okinawa.
Okinawa for this one.
And that's kind of the basis for this one. A couple of the cool things is you do get to spend more time with his, not his adoptive daughter, surrogate daughter, proxy daughter, which is Haruka Sawamura, who is the love child of Kiryu's love of his life, who dies back in like Yakuza 1. You get a lot of time with her in Yakuza 0, but she does die in 1, and that's like the whole story. But he's officially Uncle Kaz to Haruka now.
Yeah.
And so she helps run the orphanage whilst also going to school and all this other stuff. She has a lot of...
She's like the den mother, basically.
And some cool things that the Yakuza 3 added to the franchise. It added these things called revelations, which would allow you to get these cool different finishing moves and stuff. When he gets the cell phone, he's like, ooh.
Is that only in that game, though?
Well, it started in 3, and it progressed. It goes to the rest of the series.
I don't remember. I remember him like walking and going, huh?
Yeah, doing the revelations. But we used a GameFAQs guide. Whoever these GameFAQs guides are phenomenal. Yeah. I think it's the same dude for all of them.
Yeah, I think it's pretty thorough guides.
Really thorough guys, but they do revelations. They introduced the chase battles, those chasing things.
Chase people?
That they started in 3.
There's so much chasing. In what's it called? In
Judgment.
Judgment. There's so many chasing scenes in Judgment. It gets exhausting.
And then what it talks about is because it was on the PS3, it was their first one on the next console on the PS3.
So we say it's a downgrade. Think about people who played the PS2 games. This would have been Yakuza 3 would have been a massive upgrade from the original PS2 games.
Originally, yes.
Yes, so you got to think about it in terms of playing on original hardware. It would have been really cool to see the upgrade of Yakuza 3.
And one of the cool things that happens that they introduced was seamless battles. Because whenever in Yakuza 1 and 2 on the PS2, whenever you'd fight faded black loading screen and you'd fight people in the streets.
God, that'd be so tedious.
A little, yeah. But this introduced seamless battle where you bump into people and you just immediately start throwing hands.
Yeah.
And so
what we're used to.
Yeah. And so that's kind of like some of the cool things that Yakuza 3 introduced. Now they're, like I said, a lot of the stories are convoluted and they're filled with politics and that's
the whole franchise.
Biggest problem with all of Yakuza is it always boils down to money. It's some
that's not just Yakuza.
That's a lot of things. But you do encounter, like I said, a smaller Yakuza family, and one of the main people is a dude named Shima Barokuro. He's a cool dude. He thinks he's the biggest, baddest person in Okinawa.
Okinawa, yeah. Not even the whole island.
He thinks he is, and he does fight off a lot of people. And Kiryu's like,
he is the biggest thing in that town until Kiryu's there.
Until someone forces Kiryu to throw hands.
Yeah.
And so he thinks he tries to fight Kiryu, and then immediately after one fight, immediately becomes Anaki Kiryu. Becomes his best friend, his mentor, and he's like the serpent of Okinawa. He has this really cool, intricate snake tattoo, which is a really, 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 really cool thing that you can completely miss because it is a sub story.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy it's missable.
Because Kiryu and him become really, really, really good friends. And his tattoo's incomplete because the person who was making his tattoo, I think, passed away or something. Who was finishing his tattoo. And it left the eye blank. And he's like, it's scarier that way. The eyes are soulless or whatever. It makes people fear. And then through the portions of the game, near the very end of the game, you always end up going back to Kamurocho. Mm-hmm. And part of the sub-story is you take this guy to the tattoo artist who did Kiryu's dragon tattoo. Mm-hmm. And then you get this whole story about this guy. He was like, yeah, I finished my last dragon 18 years ago because I knew I'd never see another man like him in my life. And the guy's like, you did what? He is a dragon. He explains the whole story of like what he saw in Kiryu, and Kiryu explains to him with great respect that and the dude finishes his tattoo. Mm-hmm. He closed the eyes.
It's crazy. It's a sub story that can be missed.
It can be missed, and it's bonkers, and it's like a really endearing and really cool thing.
Yeah,
and then like you said, there's a lot of because you spend a lot of time in Okinawa, which is this desert.
Okinawa's a boring little town.
It's a beachfront property town. Yeah. And you're just kind of doing all these kind of little. It's not super great. No offense to it, but like some of the cool story moments is this smaller Yakuza family. Their patriarch, their boss man, has an adoptive daughter as well. So he sees a lot of himself in Kiryu with how he raises Haruka and stuff like that. And so this adoptive daughter of his gets kidnapped by these people because they found out that Kiryu has protection from the local Yakuza. And so they're trying to get Kiryu and the Yakuza. And so this adoptive daughter is...
People always start things with... That's the joy of Yakuza is... Because of who Kiryu is, people are always starting things if they're especially in another town, starting something with somebody who they don't know who he is.
Because he doesn't go around bragging about who he is. He's not braggadocious. Anything.
We tried to find the term for what Kiryu is.
He's immortal Kratos.
Basically, yeah. Well, he's not. He doesn't brag. He has hilarious lines that aren't bragging. You just can't find what that word is.
I think my term is absolute confidence in one's ability. Absolute confidence in one's ability.
He doesn't when he says these. I don't have any lines written down, but he says these lines that are just he states facts that he's going to crush you and everything you've ever dreamed of, basically, as a person, and completely eliminate your pride. But he says that he's not bodacious. He's not he's not a braggart. He just states facts and then delivers the facts.
One left and one right. But this leads to a confrontation where Kiryu's like, I'm gonna have to beat you up. And again, in Yakuza fashion, there's a ridiculous fight sequence that happens. Kiryu's fighting the main bad guy's second in command, and then the second command loses, and so the boss man gives the signal to have them killed with bulls, have them stampeded with bulls.
You don't right to the end of the game.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's not a lot in between, unfortunately. There's
lots. Yeah, it's just not very.
It
boils down to big Yakuza fights.
Big Yakuza fights.
Probably not on a rooftop.
Yeah. I think
a lot of these games, it's a joke. It's almost a meme. It would be a meme that a lot of Yakuza games end up with him shirtless on a rooftop.
Matter of fact, a small side tangent, in our YouTube, our intro video, our podcast video, we actually have...
Oh, of course. Yeah, we should mention that. I don't know which game that is.
We have Yakuza, we have Kiryu, and it takes place on a rooftop, and he does the Yakuza...
Did that thing where he rips the shirt off and he shows his tattoo. Did that on purpose because we love the franchise. Oh, yeah. That's why it's one of the games in our intro.
And but because ridiculous stuff, there's this patriarch, this Yakuza boss, this adoptive daughter of his is mute. She can't speak due to whatever crazy trauma she experienced. And then he's getting stampeded and run over by these bulls. He's he's an older gentleman too. But let's clear. He's like an older gentleman, in his late 50s, maybe early 60s.
You're ancient in Japan, apparently.
Yeah. And so he's getting he's dodging these bulls. And I mean, there's a couple of these bulls stampeding in this small area that they threw him in. And the mute girl yells father, papa, or something like that, a cute version of dad. And he was like, It's like the first time she's ever spoken, and she calls him father. And this bull's running at him. He literally grabs the bull by the horns and stops him in mid stride, and then like flips the bull over him. And then he takes his shirt off, and he's got his tattoo. And he
yeah, I don't remember what his tattoo is.
Was it a tiger? Actually, his may have been a bull. Maybe
that'd be hilarious if it was a bull.
I can't remember. I feel like
somebody else has a tiger.
Oh, Taiga Saijima has a tiger. But he, and then then the rest of the game happens. But like he literally catches life by the horns, catches the bull by the horns, and flips the bull. And then he and Kiryu lay waste to that dude's entire group of people, and it's just phenomenal. And like you're like, oh, that was pretty cool. But like a lot of the stuff.
Yeah, is this the one that has doesn't that other kid die?
Unfortunately,
so that's one of the highlights. I hate to say it's a highlight. But the acting, especially because you don't really see
Shima Bakuro.
Kiryu doesn't show normally. He's a fairly stoic Kiryu. People think he's boring. I think he's more stoic, and he's been stoic and barely doesn't often have to show too much anger because when he's ruining your life and removing pride from your life. He's not usually angry about it. He's just doing what Kiryu does. This is an emotional part because the 6 episode the bull. This all happens all right by. I forget how the kid gets killed, but the kid who got the new tattoo. You spent the whole game with him and Kiryu bonding basically. He gets. How does he get killed?
I believe he gets stabbed or shot.
But there's a moment here of the kid literally dies in Kiryu's arms, and I feel like I'm not trying to be racist, but it's sometimes it's hard to tell. It sounds bad, like hard to tell if acting in another language is really good. Like I love a lot of the voice acting. We play all Yakuza games in Japanese. This moment, this super emotional moment, it stuck in my brain because I feel like this is a huge moment for Kiryu, and I feel like the acting. I hope it is acting for this moment is phenomenal. His reaction to this kid getting killed, and because Kiryu saves most people.
I mean, if he
most of his, that's the only thing he fights for is family. I think that's probably like the whole point of this kid's death is Kiryu. This whole game, Kiryu's fighting. It's Kiryu's whole life. He's fighting for family. Yeah. I mean, that's his whole thing. And this kid dies under Kiryu's protection. He dies anyway, and this is it's a big moment.
Yeah, but he dies because they come to Morning Glory and they're trying to hurt.
He died there in that arena. Kiryu's like holding him in the arena. I know it's been a long time. It's been so long since I've played this game.
Oh no, it's that other guy, the bumbling kind of heavy set guy. He doesn't die, but he gets beat almost to death with a sledgehammer, defending.
That's back at Morning Glory.
Yeah. And then he comes because he doesn't know his brother is dead. He comes to Kiryu and say, "Hey, they attacked Morning Glory. I did what I could," and then that leads to like the final consequences of the game. But it's it sounds discombobulated, and we're not really doing it enough justice. But it is. Unfortunately, the story is one of the weaker ones, but there are, just like every Yakuza, there are moments that are awesome. And of course, unfortunately for this one, it happens to be like the last chapter.
The back end, yeah.
Because a lot of the stuff you're doing is you're like, oh,
there's a lot of sprinting around Okinawa.
Okinawa.
Just doing some of these sub stories don't stick out. The random side stuff doesn't really stick out. There's a bunch of running around this little town that's just not. It's just not very interesting, and that happens. But then you get to the end, and you see the interesting things.
Yeah. But one of the things as talking about sub stories briefly is they do start to focus a little bit. Because in Yakuza 3, I guess they're showing off, look what we can do. We have so many things. Or maybe it has something to do with the fact there wasn't a lot of story in Yakuza 3. Is it has the most sub-stories. Almost double any other game.
Really?
Yeah. I'm looking here in my notes. So Yakuza 4 has 63 sub-stories. Yakuza 5 has 63 sub-stories. Yakuza 6 has 51. Yakuza 3 has 119.
Golly.
Yeah, and I think because it had a lot to do with they didn't have enough main story
to really, because it really just getting to those.
And they're trying to show off, how much data can we put on a disc? Well, maybe
nobody's showing that off, but that is weird. That is weird. That's a strange game.
It's a very strange thing to realize.
Yeah. So this pivots to like we wonder. If you said there's not a whole lot of story here, there's not a whole lot left because Kiryu's retired and trying to live the retired life and do his family. So this kind of leads to like I wonder if this is like a a part of this franchise where they were kind of maybe running out of stuff to do with Kiryu, because they've kind of, you're at this point, originally you're a trilogy, you're 3 games, you don't even have 0 back in the day. You're 3 games deep, and Kiryu's done everything you can think of when it comes to beating the crap out of people and fighting for his family, fighting for the Yakuza. It's a trilogy of a lot of stuff that's happened to this guy. So when 4 comes along, 4 and 5 are maybe...
We're gonna dive in. Yeah, we're done with 3. We're jumping into 4.
We can do 4 and 5 almost together in a way, because they're so strange. Both of these have expanded casts of playable characters, and I do not like this. I was so happy that when you get to like 6 and you're just playing as Kiryu again. Mm-hmm. So both 4 and 5 have
a split story, where you said an expanded cast. So with 4, we're introduced to Shun Akiyama, Taiga Saejima, and Masayoshi Tanimura.
Yeah. Tanimura is never mentioned again.
Unfortunately, there is something to do with the actor who portrayed him.
Yeah.
Is
this one of those things where they like sold drugs or bought drugs, and like Japan does not stand for that? It says
allegations of uses of drugs, which forced him to retire.
Yeah, Japan does not mess around. As much as America, we're all like, let's everybody smoke weed, what, make it legal. Japan's like, you even look at a drug, your life is over.
Yeah.
Like, Japan does not mess around with that kind of stuff. Like, you literally like ended the dude's, like, you're done. You're not doing anything. Like, you're done.
America, we on the other hand, we love a a comeback story.
I guess.
Where someone like, they fell off the bandwagon, got really big, like, because some of the biggest actors nowadays were people who did horrible things in the 80s and stuff like that. But I'm not going to go deep into all that, but Japan don't.
Yeah. So something about this actor.
Yeah. You said allegations.
Because they use his face. I think they use his face a little bit.
Face and voice.
And he's just, his character is wiped off the face of Yakuza Earth, basically, after this game. So we don't have to waste too much. He's the cop, right?
Yeah.
Ironically.
Yeah, he's a corrupt cop. Taiga Saejima is a convict, and Akiyama is a loan shark.
Yeah, I would say shark's rough.
Well, that's what it.
He's like the nicest loan shark ever put on the face of the earth. Both Saejima and Akiyama are with the rest of the franchise.
They reoccur.
So they probably had intended for the other guy to reoccur as well, but he just vanishes off the face of the earth.
Just disappears.
Yeah. They add a lot more plot to Saejima throughout. He has other connections in the world, who he is and who he becomes. Also, both of these guys basically peter out by Yakuza 6. They're barely in 6 because 6 is so focused on Kiryu.
Yeah. But Akiyama, and the good news is with each of the characters, there is a distinct, different fighting style. So you have to relearn how to, how to play with it.
Mash it on X.
Yeah, but you have to figure it out because Akiyama does a lot of kicks. He's fast. Yeah. Saejima has a thing where you hit combos, but then you have to hold the last button. He'll do like a power punch or a power kick, and it's different.
Yeah, different enough. Yeah,
different enough. If you want to fully utilize his potential, you have to learn how to punch, hold the button, let go, and stuff like that. And then the Tanimura was like a grapple. He's like a judo guy, so he does a lot of throws and grapples, and he was a little different.
Mm-hmm. And you still play as Kiryu.
Yeah, in the last, because the game is divided into 12 chapters, and each 13 chapters, and each character gets 4 chapters, and then the final chapter is Kiryu and cleanup, and you can pick whichever one you want.
Yeah.
Now there is some confusion that you encountered, is that when you're playing with some of these characters, I think the entire game is in Kamurocho. Maybe Kamurocho and because Kamurocho and Sotenbori.
This is one of Saejima. You do the prison part, and then the mountains.
Yeah. No. That's
that 5.
No, I think that might be this one. No. That's 5. 5 is that one.
Gosh.
But this one, because what happens is it's in all the Yakuza, there's these lockers, and you open up lockers, but certain people have sub-stories that require certain items from lockers. But if you're, say, Akiyama, and you open up this locker, you're like, "Ooh, I have this really cool item." That's locked in his inventory until the final chapter when everyone's inventory comes together. So you can't complete certain. Well, you can still complete them, but these is like a cheat way. It's like a special tile that lets you instant win, like a mahjong match or something that you need for a sub-story.
Never bothered.
But one of the people's sub stories is, I think, to beat a match of that. It's like the fastest way to do this is to have this key, but I messed up, or you messed up, and then you told me about it, and I think I still messed up because I wasn't paying attention.
Too complicated.
But yeah, like I said, when there's a cool thing that happens here. The whole point, the main story for 4 is about police corruption. It ends up being the corrupt cop you're playing is like the least corrupt cop on the force. But he's the only one who's open about his corruption. He's like, you can buy me off.
Yeah, he's open from the beginning of the game.
Like one of the first things you do as him is you like pull over somebody who's like running, and you're like, hey man, you can't just pay me like 5,000 yen. I'll let you walk. He's like, really? No one's that. He's like, I don't care. He's like pretty open about it. Mm-hmm. And then like the whole thing is there's a linchpin character named Lily, and she borrows money from Akiyama to try to do something.
Does anybody ever pay Akiyama back?
He takes all of his money back.
Okay.
But he says he doesn't take money out. He doesn't try to get your money back until after like a year or something.
Yeah, he doesn't. Akiyama is not the chase you down and beat you up loan shark. He's such a well,
this also doesn't
in a franchise full of dour, some mostly dour characters between Kiryu, Sajima, and this corrupt cop. Akiyama is the little charismatic, kind of bright character in this game, and that he kind of carries that through the rest of the franchise a little bit, even though he has less screen time. He is the more charismatic, kind of funny, bright character.
I think one of the things they tried to do is they were like, okay, because like you said, with 3, they're like, we don't know what to do with Kiryu. He's trying.
No, we don't know this is. We don't know. We have no research.
I'm sure I could do further research.
Japanese companies are tight about any goings on in their companies. We feel like this is all in person, but we feel like they didn't know what to do with Kiryu for a little while. He's barely in this game.
Yeah. And so, but what happens though is they are trying to expand. It's a cool thing. They're trying to expand the mythos of Kiryu, because you find out through playing as Akiyama that 3 years ago he was homeless. Now he's worth billions of dollars, because fate would have it at the climactic big battle of Yakuza 1 on a rooftop in the Millennium Tower, which is where a lot of the battles happen in Yakuza franchises, on top of Millennium Tower, where there's like this entire, like I'm talking billions upon billions of dollars, when this building blew up and all fell all over Kamurocho, and Akiyama was a homeless man who got a bunch of money.
Started his own company.
And he got himself a haircut, he got himself a suit, and he got a job, and he turns out he was really good at making money. And he just invested and reinvested and got and he just kept, and he just became filthy rich. And so much so that he wanted to help other people out in his same situation. And so he'll give anybody any amount of money they ask for, but all they have to do is pass a test, sometimes a series of tests, to see if they're a good person, if they're worth their time, And with this character Lily, her big thing is she needs like $25 million, and he's just like, that's probably the biggest thing I've ever given out. And he makes her go through a couple of things, and each one she completes, he's like, okay, here's the money. And then the whole thing is what it is because he helps out this Lily girl, and she uses that money to skip town from other people that she's borrowed money from. They come after Akiyama, he gets pulled into a thing. And then that's his whole thing. He's just going around being a nice literally being a nice loan shark and helping people. He even helps out people like the dudes at Stardust, the host club. That's a primary staple in the Yakuza franchise as well. But he's a cool cat. He's just a really cool cat. Smooth talker, friendly, funny. And then we get to Saejima, who is he's a convict in jail.
Yeah. If you would consider Kiryu quiet and dour, they would one up you with Saejima.
Yeah, Taiga Saejima.
Yeah.
He's been in jail for the last, I think he's been in jail for the last 10 years or something. But he's also a legend in the Yakuza business. He took down a patriarch and 17 people of his family all at once. Yeah. He pulled a hit by himself with 2 guns in his hand and 1 in his mouth. He just went in fully loaded, took out everybody, and then was found out and put in jail. But he believes that the person, because he wasn't supposed to go alone. He had a sworn brother who was supposed to go with him, and he believes he's been just filled with hatred and bile for his
sworn brother is Majima.
His sworn brother, who he believes betrayed him.
It's Goro Majima. Yeah.
And then we see it's cool because we played them in a different order.
When you play Zero, it's one of the few games where you actually play as extended. Obviously, half that game is Majima. There's no mention
Part of him being tortured and getting his eye taken out was the dude who was their patriarch.
Yeah.
Cut his eye out and put him on a leash.
That, but there's no mention of Sajima in Zero that I remember.
Well, maybe there is, maybe there's not.
Maybe I don't remember. It's been so long since we played, but you feel like that would be a big moment. Or unless Sajima's his life in Zero is after he's older, because when it goes to the Sajima stuff, they're both younger when that happens.
Yeah, because this takes place in the 80s. So this, so maybe they the story of Sajima. This is what happened. This is Goro's side of the story.
Yeah, there's got so many layers. It was just when the Sajima stuff happens and you realize that the other person he's mad at is Goro, so it's kind of interesting.
Because the prison he breaks out of is on an island off of Okinawa, because he literally washes on shore right in front of Morning Glory.
Yeah, and you fight Kiryu.
You fight Kiryu as Sajima.
Yeah, first time in the franchise you fight Kiryu.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is you have Tanimura, who's walking around being a corrupt cop, and he ends up being friends with Lily, and he's trying to investigate her disappearance.
Okay,
that's what it is.
I barely remember him because
unfortunately, he goes away so quick after this. And then again, we talked about spoilers and stuff. We're going to spoil stuff. It ends up being Lily is Taiga's little sister, and she's trying to get this money to find legal defense and stuff to get Sajima out of jail, because she knows her brother would never do that.
Interesting. Yeah, I forgot about that.
That's like a big end up, because everyone's like, who's this Lily person? Who's Lily? It's this woman in a gorgeous white dress. She's like a former hostess, and she's on the run. Yeah. And it all ends up being
everything's connected.
Yeah, they do a hell of a good job of always making sure that things do connect. In at the very least, the final chapter, you're like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, there's so much stuff that goes on. Things that they did add with Yakuza 4 is because you run around Okinawa and you run around. Is it Okinawa? Because Sajima washes up in Okinawa, but I can't remember if he just goes to because they go bounce and forth between a couple of different areas.
Yeah, this is mostly Kamurocho, ain't it?
I believe so.
Where's Kiryu in this one? In the last chapter, he's probably in Okinawa, and this is too complicated.
Yeah, like so, there is a lot.
And you gotta think it's been people gotta remember we were going off of memories of games we've played over the past couple of years.
Yeah,
we put time. We had to put a couple of months between Yakuza games.
But that's that one. But some things that they did add. There's three because most of it is in Kamurocho. There's 3 areas that they added to Kamurocho. Mm-hmm. They added the underground. Mm-hmm. They added which is really just like the sewers, because in 3 you actually meet the Florist of Sai. You have that whole little underground casino area. Yeah. But they added the actual sewers themselves that you run around in 4. They added the rooftops now, so all of the buildings you have the rooftop access which is kind of annoying.
It also doesn't return. I don't know if that returns.
Yeah, you go to rooftops really in 5 and 6.
I don't remember running on rooftops in 6.
It's not as bad, but you find keys up there, and one of the dudes is that super American trainer. I think it's the guy who helps train Akiyama. He's up there, Drago or something.
You said Drago? Is that?
Yeah, but he's super American, but he has like a weird name. And then there's they added like a whole back lot to a building, like a parking lot and some like substreets and stuff. They added a whole extra section. But that's what they did for 4. And then of course it's about police corruption and money, and the police captains trying to get money from this Yakuza boss. And like
all 4 of these characters trying to tie back around. It's cool, but like it's cool, complicated, and you're wondering where how Kiryu ties into all this, because you don't hardly see him very much.
Yeah, because this does do that really cool thing where this Yakuza boss, or not Yakuza boss, I think is it Chinese Triad or the Korean Triad? I forget, Mafia. Because you have Chinese Triad, Korean Mafia, Yakuza, and there's always some different things. But there's that cool thing where this particular mob boss is so powerful they clear the streets of Kamurocho, like around Millennium Tower Square. Mm-hmm. And it's just a sea of black suits, kind of like Agent Smith in Matrix 3 or whatever. And then you have Akiyama, Kiryu, Tanimura, and Taiga, and Goro. Mm-hmm. And you guys all walk up in black suits, and you just fight your way through the streets. And it's really cool, really cinematic final thing. And, That's it. Unfortunately, I don't have really too much.
So much more.
There's so much more.
Yeah, than what we were saying.
But the thing, like you said, the thing that rubs you weird in 4 is you spend the least amount of time in that game as Kiryu.
Yeah, by a large margin.
By a large margin. It's so strange.
Yeah.
Because he's just enjoying life, and then something pulls him back in. He's got to help his friends, and it has a lot to do with like this stranger popping up on his doorstep, attacking him in front of his kids, and then finding out this dude's associated with Goro. And Goro, at this point in time, is now like a captain next to Daigo. He's like second in command of all the Tojo clan, which if you haven't played Yakuza, this doesn't make any sense to you. But Majima is a very powerful person. And on top of this, because he's also so powerful, because he gets a little bit of extra backstory, is that the Majima family, which is everyone who works under Goro Majima, is the largest family of the Tojo clan, because Majima doesn't have like standard recruiting things. He's like, if you're strong, join. I don't care, but you got to listen to me. If you don't listen to me, I'll kill you.
Well, everybody's loyal to
the
Majima family.
Every single person who's in the Majima family is 100% loyal to Majima, not everyone else. That's pretty cool. And, is it 4? It's not 5. It's either 4 or 3. We're in the remaster because there is no actual interaction with Goro. Really, they did.
I thought that was in one of the Kiwamis.
Was that in the Kiwami? Oh, it may have been in Kiwami 3.
The Goro
right.
episodes.
The clan creator. Yeah, my bad.
They added one of the Kiwamis added some Goro Majima episodes that were new to the remakes.
But that's kind of it for 4. Like I said, with this only had 63 sub-stories, and it was divided...
Only 63 sub-stories.
But it's divided equally amongst each person, each chapter. Really, whatever 63 divided by 4 is like, what, 15? 12? I'm trying to think of anything else that happens there. I'm okay with that. We can move on to 5.
Yeah.
And 5 does the same thing, where it splits...
Multiple characters again.
But it's for the most part, it's the same people. But because of that...
The baseball guy.
Yeah, because that other character, whatever allegations were him, and he retired, they introduced a new character. And this does things a little weird, too. Because Kiryu has, again, because of what happened at the end of 4, he doesn't want his family hurt.
Yeah, he's trying so hard to be left alone.
So he literally leaves and goes to an entirely other city. Now, 5 was their most ambitious endeavor. I have a quote here that, for the first time in the series, the game features 5 distinct locations across all of Japan.
Yeah.
And it gives me, I'm not going to go into all the details, but it gives me all the descriptions of what its in-game counterpart and then what it's real life based off of. I'm not going to go into detail. But it says right here that according to the general director, Toshihiro Nagoshi, and the producer-writer, Masayoshi Yokoyama, they said that this was the San Andreas of the Like a Dragon series, calling it a massive expansion to the core concept.
Mm-hmm. It's funny they go to all that work, and then 6 just tightens it all back up.
Yeah, but they have all these other locations that you can come back to in other games. But what it is it is broken up into, technically, 5 different characters. Yeah. Technically. 2 of them are together most of the time, and you bounce back and forth between them during their chapters. Mm-hmm. But you have Kiryu, who's on the run. He has a different name. He's in a different city, and he's a taxi driver.
Yeah.
just burly man driving a tiny taxi.
Trying to, not stay out of trouble. Just trying to stay out of trouble.
And then people just won't let him.
Yeah.
And then you have Saejima, who does end up going back to jail. Okay, he ends up going back to jail.
Is that the end of 4?
End of 4. He goes back to jail to finish out his time, but his burden's lifted because he realized that his brother didn't abandon him and stuff like that. So he goes back to jail. It also lets his sister go free and pay back the loan sharks and stuff like that. He's like, but because he willingly came back, they give him a lot of leniency and stuff like that. And so some of that comes into play here in 5, where he befriends some people in jail. He's actually kind of friends with the warden because what happens is there's a big part of his story is there's a massive riot and people break out of their cells and they're killing guards. And Saejima he's like, I'm trying to be a better person. He's like, I'm in here. I'm a monster. I was lied to, all this other stuff. And so he actually ends up protecting the warden during this riot and beating up a bunch of people to defend the warden, and becomes friendly. And then the warden realizes that there's corrupt people in his jailhouse. And he's like, everybody in here, you convict who've killed 18 people, are the only person I can trust in this building. Well, because the other thing that happens is there's a reveal in 4 that some of the people he killed weren't dead. That he was given like non-lethal ammunition or something like that.
Yeah, I remember something along the line. He didn't actually kill all these people.
Big plot twist because he was just set up to be framed.
Yeah.
And so he actually never...
Big surprise, it was a frame job.
Yeah. So his sentence is severely reduced, but then all him breaking out of jail and all that stuff added to it. So, but you end up getting out. You befriend some dude named Baba. He's your buddy. You protect him in jail, and you and Baba break out with the warden's permission, kinda. You break out and you end up sledding down a mountain, and you end up in this like a hunter village, and then the majority of Saijima's area is in this little hunter village. Yeah. And doing his sub-story, main story. Because you don't have to do all of it, but you do have to do some of it to progress through it.
Yeah, we do. We did the vast majority of the hunting. It wasn't that... It says like irritating I remember it being that hard, irritating at first, but you end up going off into the mountains and hunting. I forget how the minigame how the game works, but you spend a lot of time with him just living in the mountains and going hunting until he's eventually pulled back to Kamurocho.
But that does end up you going, it's called like the demon bear, but they use the Japanese word for it, like oni bear, I don't know. But there's this demon bear that's going around the woods. And
not a literal demon, that's just a
giant bear. But he beats you up, and that's how you get hurt, and you end up in the village. You and Baba. Baba's really, really hurt, and then you just you can just leave almost immediately, and then you spend your story building up your hunting, enough to that you eventually fight the bear again. But you don't gun the bear. No, you shoot. You throw your gun down and you throw fisticuffs on against this bear.
Yeah,
and then that's and then Saijima's story ends up, he obviously comes back and
who knows what gets him. I don't remember what gets him.
Well, because the point of this one is one of the things that breaks him out of jail is the people who started that riot is another boss trying to take over the Tojo clan, and these two people, they tell before they kill Saijima that they've killed Daigo, the leader, and they've killed his sworn brother Majima. They're dead.
According to them,
as far as they had people that like broke into the captain meeting and killed all the captains, and they're taking over. And then that's that.
None of that happened, though.
Spoiler alert.
Well, yeah, they're all perfectly alive.
Well, Daigo's hurt and in the hospital.
Yeah.
But then what happens is Shinada, who is he's a baseball player. He's a baseball player who is kicked out of baseball for allegedly doctoring games and losing on purpose and stuff like that, to making bets, which you're not supposed to do, period. Mm-hmm. And then it's revealed that the person who hires him to investigate these allegations into this company is actually Daigo in disguise.
This guy also doesn't come back?
Doesn't come back, yeah. He didn't really serve a purpose. I don't know why they...
Even bothered,
yeah.
Yeah.
Because they could have just did it...
His mini games is mostly playing baseball.
Yeah, majority of his sub stories and mini games are always ending up back in the batting cages, and because he is a good baseball player, as it progresses, it's incredibly easy. Becomes incredibly easy. He gets like skills like slows down the ball.
His heat actions are
always baseball. Throwing a can at somebody's head and macking them.
Was it what? No, he had heat actions in the baseball.
Oh yeah,
to just win basically.
Basically. I mean, he was a fine character, I guess, and seeing him get to redeem himself and whatever, but it's not having a connection to it because he was there and then gone.
Yeah, he's never mentioned. I mean, of course, he could come back in later games. I don't know. He's not in 6.
No. And the other thing, like I said, the split characters, you actually get to play as Haruka for the first time ever, and she's trying to become an idol.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what it is. In order for her to become an idol, someone saw her singing, some passing agent saw her singing at like a school competition or something, and really, really liked her and said that she could become something, and then goes to Kiryu and was like, your reputation precedes you, you're not a good person. I can make something of her, but you can never speak to her again. Mm-hmm. And he was just like, no. He's like, well, maybe it's my daughter. I want her to be good. And some sort of documentation that allows this woman to become her legal guardian and essentially adopt her for the agency. It's a weird business transaction deal that I've heard of before, but I'm not very familiar with. Yeah. And so Haruka, she has some sub-story. She goes around. She doesn't fight anybody. She gets into dance battles and sing-offs, idol battles.
Is this the most fun part of 5? Yes.
A little bit. I mean, I'm not good at rhythm games, but it is...
The Haruka idol stuff is like... somehow the most fun. I feel like it's fun and kind of just goofy and just like doing this whole stuff. It's because you're either hunting, playing baseball, or driving a taxi, or doing idle stuff. I feel like, I don't know the reputation for this game, but I feel like the idle stuff would be, because of the nature of it, would be the highlight. Because the Akiyama stuff is him just walking around fighting folks and protecting Haruka.
Yeah, basically.
He's kind of a footnote in this one.
Yeah, Akiyama and Haruka, their stories do go back and forth. Like whenever she goes to sleep or goes to do an actual whatever training for her idol stuff, it switches Akiyama. He walks around the town and does some stuff.
Yeah, I don't remember his importance. Like,
he's just there. I think it's turned out that he promised Kiryu that nothing would happen to her.
He's a bit of a footnote in this one.
Him being a loan shark, he is an upstanding businessman. Yeah. And no, what happens? He's also an investigator, because as the story progresses, the lady who adopted Haruka for her agency, she commits suicide. She jumps out of her building or whatever.
Isn't she thrown, or like?
Well, it's revealed very shortly thereafter that she was thrown.
Yeah. Because
of how she landed and this, that, and Akiyama is investigating her murder and also protecting Haruka.
Yeah.
But I think it stumbled on at the end of Haruka's like chapter 1 or chapter 2, Haruka's that she died, and then he's helping to investigate, and then he's like, I promised your Uncle Kaz that nothing would ever happen to you, and she does that, and
she run around town with Haruka, basically not fighting people, challenging people to dance battles is kind of her whole thing.
Dance battles and sing-offs, which include, I think they're together, because she does the singing, you have to do the choreography and stuff like that. Yeah. And then as you do her sub-stories,
these things level up and stuff like that.
You get different costumes and stuff for like the bigger ones. Mm-hmm. The actual idol battles.
She gets on TV, mm-hmm. Yeah.
And depending on what you're wearing, you have like cute, all that other stuff, and then it makes your abilities like you can hit people.
And her sub stories are other idol work. Basically, she has to go on these goofy Japanese, not goofy to us, I guess. I guess idols do it all the time. You appear on these
shows and game shows
and game shows and stuff like that, and she awkwardly moves through those and stuff like that. It's pretty funny. You do the handshaking events.
You're like, oh, this is getting awkward. Because I remember the handshaking one is you have to shake someone's hand, be respectful enough to let go, and then
compliment them or something.
You have to say the correct compliment or whatever, because otherwise your bodyguard will come over and like shove them back, and you have to like do these. Like if he shoves them back, you did a bad job. Mm-hmm. So you have to like handle the situation professionally and let go. And yeah.
It's like the most involved thing of this entire game.
They spent a lot of time and effort on all the idol battle things they did.
All the idol stuff, because everything else. I mean, the hunting in baseball and the taxi they're all
intricate.
They're all thought out, yeah. I guess. The taxi thing, maybe not so much, but the taxi thing leads more to the racing more than anything.
It gets into like the drag racing, the street racing.
That's just racing with heat action. So I feel like the most thought out thing would be the Haruka stuff, because I don't know if they knew this would be the kind of pretty much the first and last time you would really get to play as Haruka, so they really kind of expanded upon it and let you do a whole bunch of Haruka stuff. Because she's the standout part of this game to me was the Haruka stuff.
Haruka's growing up and realize and
living on her own,
because she didn't fully understand, because she does live on her own. She lives in an apartment that is from the agency, and she has to deal in certain situations. She does have to deal with being a young 16-year-old girl in a world full of creepers, like people like.
Thankfully, there's not a whole lot of that.
But there's some
that's not the whole focus of it.
But she does get stalked, to her home and stuff like that, and people are taking pictures of her on the street, and she gets uncomfortable. Yeah. And just one of those. It's a different perspective, because you used to being a
big burly
badass man in every iteration. Now you're like I don't want to say weaker necessarily, but a smaller, more fragile person.
This is an interesting thing for her, when they could have easily had her did like a whole like, I need to find somebody to train me, I need to become, like you said, a badass, I need to become a badass too. You just could have went down the path of like most I think writers would have turned down to make Haruka combat ready.
Yeah.
Because her life surrounding Kiryu is going to be a combat life. Instead, they write her this other plot line, which leads back around to the things that Kiryu does to protect her. And then that leads even further into 6, So you don't have to make her a combat character when you can make her. Kiryu's whole thing is to give her a life worth living, and the things that Kiryu does for her. You know, I like that plot line than making her combat ready. Yeah. They don't do that at all. They
touch on it. That she needs to try to do. Don't go somewhere else. Take what you already have.
Yeah.
I think Akiyama talked about take what you already are good at. Take your dancing, take this, and we can. But you don't ever actually fight. I think
she doesn't fight. I don't remember doing anything combat related. Like the
whole
point.
No, but it's part of the story is he explains like he's like you, the world we live in.
Yeah.
But you never actually see her fight or anything like that. But part of his story is being a mentor and telling her to be ready. Mm-hmm. And this whole thing leads up because like the person who has her contract or whatever, this organization, she can't associate with any bad elements. It's bad for the idol image. She can't do anything. And she ends up becoming the number one idol, and she gets her breakout debut concert. Mm-hmm. It's in this massive dome. She beat out the number one and number two idols.
They're
their team, yeah.
Their team, yeah.
There's the number one idol pair. She ends up beating them in the contest, and I get her contest, and she's on this stage, and you do this big number where you've become friends or whatever, and there's this whole beautiful speech that she gives, and she apologizes, but she can't be who they want her to be because she's not, and she dumps this massive truth bomb that kind of ruins her career, but says that the person she loves more than anything in the world is her Uncle Kaz, and she says his name Kazuma Kiryu, and she's like, yes, he is a former Yakuza. She basically does all the no-nos that she's supposed to do, and she deeply apologizes, says she can't be an idol anymore because that would not allow her to be with her father, her family. It's really like shows how much she's like grown up and everything, and she's like, I would like the opportunity, but if I have to do this and I can't be with you, I think one of the lines, she's like, if I have to do this and I can't be with you, then I don't want to do this. Mm-hmm. I want to be with my Uncle Kaz. Mm-hmm. And previously too, I think 4 ends the same way. I think it's done more beautifully in 5, but 4, one of the things in 4 ends with like Kiryu getting shot. And you're like, credits? You're like, what? And then like after the credits roll, Kiryu's like in a hospital bed, and Date-san's talking to him, and he's like, I'm glad you survived those bullets. And so I think the same thing happened. I think that happens in like 4, and in 5, he's like stabbed or beat up, and he's like dying in the snow. And while he's dying in the snow, she's giving that speech, hoping that he's hearing it or whatever. And she's like, I'm going to come find you. But Kiryu's again dying in the snow as the credits roll. Mm-hmm. But I think this one in 5, it doesn't give you the satisfaction as the credits roll.
I thought she runs up on him in the snow. Is that not?
Does she? I thought it. Okay, I think she does find him in the snow, but I think it's still credits. I think you don't know if he survives.
Wait, they're not going to kill
you. Yeah, they're not going to kill you. But I think it handled it better. Like it was a more beautiful thing.
It's done really well.
Like there's a lot more to do in 5, and there's a lot more.
Yeah, we're glazing over. So there is, when it comes to Sajima and the hunting and the bear. There's lots of talking, lots of plot and things happening. Him, learning stuff about himself. Same thing with the baseball guy. I can't remember his name. He's Shinada. He's learning about himself. There's subs, like he said, 20 odd sub stories per character. Lots of stuff is going on. But in Akiyama's tied directly to Haruka. We're just kind of pointing out that the Haruka is the main central plot line of this game. It's kind of where it all leads to. The baseball guy and Sajima, they don't have nothing to do with what Haruka's doing, I don't think. Well, I'm sure they're got to be everything tends to be tied together in some way.
It all ends up being linchpinning together because the manager, Haruka's idol manager, the lady who commits suicide, but is revealed very quickly that it was murder. Her boyfriend at the time, her former lover, boyfriend, whatever, is like someone. Again, it's someone high up in the Yakuza, and he gives her like access to a bunch of money because he knows he's going to die. He thinks people are going to betray him, and she's the only person he can trust, even though they're not together anymore. And then she dies. The people trying to find the money because they found out that he gave it to her. And then that's kind of where that's where Akiyama comes in. Saejima comes in because his family died, and it ended up being this other. The people who did that were also associated with the same people that like her boyfriend was a part of that family. Yeah. And then the same people in that family were the same people that set up Shinada to take the fall for the gambling allegation.
So it is all connected. They always make sure it's all connected.
All connects. And then it turns out that she really isn't a horrible person. Like she is mean and treats Kiryu like garbage, and you hate her. And then, like, as the story progresses, no, her manager, because she just talks dog trash to Kiryu, saying he's worthless, and that, like you're like, oh my, I hate this woman. Mm-hmm. And then every time you talk to her as Haruka before she dies, she's just mean. And then once she dies, then it does that thing where it like flashes back to all this stuff, and she's doing all this stuff to protect her. And you're like, okay, she's not a horrible person, but man, she was mean. She was just an old hatchet of a woman for being like 25. And because she was 25, she's aged and retired out of the idol game. She's, ugly and past her prime at 25. Bless her heart. The ageism. I mean, Kiryu's been called old man since Yakuza 1 when he was like 20, 25. But yeah, besides like they added all new mini games though. The way the baseball thing was different, the Hunter Killer was different, the Taxi and the Idol, all the other mini games were there. They only added one other slightly unique one, which was a ramen cooking thing where Kiryu had to like run a dude's ramen shop.
Yeah, that's a sub story. It's not that big of a thing.
But I mean, it's a unique mini, because I went through and I tried to see how many things had unique mini games. This one had the most, with all the taxi driving and all that stuff. I remember the taxi thing being more irritating. That thankfully that the taxi stuff leads more to the street racing thing, so that becomes what you really end up doing. So like the taxi minigame is there, but you don't have to do a whole lot of it. You have to do at least one per like difficulty level or something like that. But it pivots into the street racing, the hilarious street racing. Because as you go through his sub stories, you unlock brakes and NOS and boosters and rims.
Yeah, but all that stuff can be unlocked for doing the races as well. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like thankfully, it kind of pivots to the street racing, and then the taxi minigame is literally like you have to like stop at stop signs and like turn the right way, and it's like a whole
and don't hit anybody.
Yeah, people run across the road in front of you. It's kind of
it's also the only time you ever drive in a Yakuza game ever.
Pretty much, yeah. I feel like there was like a highway driving thing somewhere.
Oh, there was like a highway drive battle. I remember that one of them. Yeah, helicopters and running along a bunch of semi trucks that are lined in a row. Yeah, but 5 took what was 4 and made it better.
Yeah, basically
made it bigger, made it better, more involved, and you do get to play as. And this one you start as Kiryu. You don't play, and you start as Kiryu, and then you go through everybody else, and then you do the final chapter as Kiryu, and then you swap around. Unlike in 4, where there's like you get Kiryu for the last chapter, and then 6 they drop all of that.
All of that's dropped.
And 6, like I said, 6 is the only one that has a subtitle. It's called Yakuza 6: Song of Life, and this one. It's one of those things where you spend most of the game and you're kind of like, it's a little boring. Which I don't understand what's really going on.
This game, because you played this one really recently, thankfully. I already played it, and I played this, and then I eventually waited time, and I ended up playing Judgment as well. But I kind of warned you that this one is kind of it's like toned down the term. Like this one's kind of like more because crazy stuff happens, but it's the way it's spaced out. This game's kind of more chill in general. But then there's a lot of things that are happening that you kind of don't think about too much until Kiryu ties a bow on it in the end.
At the very end, yeah. I'm not going to go into detail about that particular letter he writes.
We didn't talk about that moment though, because I don't know if it like impacted you the way I kind of thought about it, because he's like somebody's reading this letter that Kiryu wrote, and it like ties everything of that game pretty much, not the whole franchise. Maybe they are kind of trying to tie a bow on the franchise in general, but that letter he writes, I think it's to Daigo, pretty much sums up the entire plot of what's been going on in this game, and makes it, because it's all about, this entire game is all about fatherhood, because Kiryu's looking for Haruka this whole game, or part of this game. I'm looking for her because he has the baby and he can't find. Oh, she's in the hospital. That's right. She's in because she got hit by a car. She's trying to find the father of this child. So Haruka's had a baby
in between games.
Then she gets hit by a car. Kiryu ends up with the baby. Doesn't know who the father is. She found out who the father is eventually. It's not even that really big of a deal.
Like once they reveal it, you're just kind of like, oh, there's bigger stuff going on.
It's just this random guy. Not even a random guy. He's a Yakuza.
He's someone you actually spend a lot of time with in the game.
Yeah, to him. But it's about, being basically Haruka's dad, and being a dad again to the little baby. What's his name? Haruto. And then there's the bad guys, there's other Yakuza family stuff that's happening. So there's like father, like it's a father and his son, how that dynamic plays out. And I feel like there's another further plot line too. And then the whole thing, we'll talk more about it, but the whole thing, all this stuff kind of plays out in the game. I think this game isn't really about big dramatic battles and stuff like that. It's way more kind of like, I don't know, man. Like I feel like I'm floundering a bit. Like this game's not like, it's not as bombacious as previous Yakuza games. I think and that's on purpose. There's big crazy stuff that happen, like with the battleship and stuff, like this big bonkers things that happens true Yakuza style. But like the way it feels like they were on purpose trying to wind down the franchise and wind down what Kiryu, who he was, and what he needed to be, and I think originally was going to be his last game, was probably the intention, possibly.
Yeah.
Because
like it's a little confusing, and it doesn't do a super great job of explaining how the end of 5 happens and how the beginning of 6 happens. Because when you have 5, Kiryu, like I said, he's bleeding out in the snow with Haruka.
Yeah.
And then 6 picks up in 2016, and it says he is released from jail after turning himself in peacefully and he gets out of jail after 3 years. He's like, okay, that's just where we're going to pick up the game. He's getting out of jail after spending 3 peaceful years in jail for making up for crimes from his past. Shortly after he is released, he backs in Kamurocho or whatever, and is brought to his attention that Haruka is in the hospital critically. She's comatose.
Doesn't Dante call him?
Date-san calls him. He's like, Kiryu, I have some really bad news, and I don't want to give it to you over the phone, but I don't know where you're at. He's like, we found Haruka. She is comatose after a hit and run, and there is something else, but you need to be here to figure that part out. Mm. And then he gets there and he finds out that the 3 years he's been in jail, Haruka left the orphanage to go live on her own. She went somewhere else because she's dealing with her own stuff too, of being a former idol and everyone walking on eggshells and people being creepy about it. And so she ends up leaving, going to another city, hopefully where no one knows where she is, and that's it. Ominichi. It's like a little small beachfront town, small town, way away from. And even when you get there, as some of the story progresses, some of the people are like, yeah, we know who you are. You are a massive idol, but we respect you enough to pretend that we didn't. And so that's
that local. I don't know if she knows, but that's a lot of that small town local Yakuza family.
Yeah. Another one, anyway.
That's Yakuza's everywhere.
And then like I said, all that, and Kiryu finds out she's comatose, all that stuff, and that she has a son.
Yeah,
and
she's in a coma for most of this game.
Yeah,
you don't spend a whole lot of time with Haruka.
I mean, because the way they describe it is, it looks like it looks like it was a hit.
Yeah, well, that's what he's trying to figure out.
Yeah, because the person like.
She's in Kamurocho when she gets hit by a car.
She's walking across the street, and a person like jumps out of a parking garage at like full speed, breaks the arm bar, hits her, crashes the car into like a dumpster, and the only thing she could think to do was use her body to shield her baby. Mm-hmm. And so she's like badly hurt, and the way it comes off is Kiryu thinks it was a hit on him through her. Yeah. But he doesn't know who the baby is. And then it's discovered, I think they do a DNA test because the people don't know who the baby is either, because they find out that it's like, they're related. That's the mother, that's the son. And he's like, she has a son? Mm-hmm. And because he's been gone for 3 years, not knowing that this is
a baby too.
It's a baby, like not even a year-old baby. He has to like buy formula baby.
Yeah. Kiryu has to do all that stuff as he takes on the baby.
And then he starts his journey, because then it's revealed that she was in this town. And he's like, all right, I'm going to go back to this town and try to figure out.
He's investigating, trying to figure out where she was, who knows her, who the dad is.
He wants to find out who the dad is, primarily.
Yeah. I forget why it's kept. So, spoilers, the dad is one of the younger guys in that local Yakuza. Why is it kept a secret? Why does he keep it a secret?
Well, he doesn't.
Kiryu walks up with the baby. So when you're watching when you play the game, when you find out, even when Kiryu meets this group, this guy knows that's his son.
Well, they don't know who Kiryu is because Kiryu doesn't advertise. He's like,
so does that guy not know that that's his baby?
Not at first, because he even says once it's revealed, he's like, me and Haruka only slept together one time.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, and she ran off.
Yeah,
after that. Okay,
after that.
So maybe he doesn't know it was his baby.
No,
Okay,
and she had other boyfriends. He's like, it wasn't just me. He's like, we were together one time, and that was it. But the whole that small Yakuza group, and then the mama at the, not to confuse people with that word, but she's like the bar matron, the mama at this local bar that they all hang out at, where ends up Haruka worked there too. And then they were all they're super protective of Haruka, and they don't know who Kiryu is to her, because Kiryu isn't going to go. He's not trying to besmirch her by saying, "Hey, yeah, I'm Haruka's Uncle Cat."
He doesn't do that because his whole thing is to
not advertise who he is.
Yeah,
and so there's this whole thing of everyone's hiding information because they don't trust the other people. It's like a little,
but they all want to protect Haruka.
Yeah, that's the number one thing, is they're all trying to protect Haruka, because he goes around with a picture of Haruka. He's like, "Do you know this woman? Do you know this woman? Do you know this woman?" And everyone's like, "Why is this dude?" They're just suspicious of this random guy walking around asking if you know Haruka. And of course, they get into there's a big fight. The game starts with it's like a bit of a frame story, actually. So you start with a big fight with this dude, and then it cuts forward, and then you work your way back up to that same fight scene, and he just picks up after the fight scene. This dude who has a crush on the mama at the bar.
Yeah. This guy, how is the guy in 3 who Kiryu beats up falls in love with Kiryu. This guy is really mad at Kiryu for continually beating him up.
Yeah, and then shortly thereafter he does become,
he chills out, but he's really mad for a long time. He doesn't fall into the,
you fight him like 3 times.
Yeah, he doesn't fall into the worshiping Kiryu thing, which I think is a fun thing, not to just have another guy follow Kiryu around who wants to, so this guy's really mad all the time that he can't beat Kiryu.
But I was thinking about it. I took a note here. I want to take a brief tangent before we shoot back on this. This is entirely Kiryu. And you got to think that, because we played them slightly out of order. We did 0, Kiwami 1, Kiwami, but in the order that you played the games when they came out, it went 4, 5, and then 0. So that was 3 games back to back where it was a split protagonist, and then 6.
Okay, very cool. Yeah.
And so they're like, yeah, we need to solely focus on Kiryu. Mm-hmm. Thankfully, they do, and they did, and they definitely cut back on the sub story. There's 51 sub stories compared to the 63, 63, and 119. They did go out of their way. They created a whole bunch of extra unique mini games for 6 as well, which you encounter most.
That's a Yakuza staple though, at this point. I imagine in the new games there's gonna be a whole new batch.
I'm sure there is, but you have all the standard ones.
There's returning characters to this though.
Yeah,
like the Pocket Racer is randomly in this town.
Pocket Fighter.
Yeah, he's older now, trying to live his life with his wife.
They do,
and it's been like Kiryu met this guy 20 years ago
in Yakuza 0. Yeah. I don't think you even talked to him in 1. It's in Yakuza 0.
Yeah.
You Pocket Fighter.
Yeah, he's living this island trying to live with selling fish, something like that. Trying to.
He's like selling fish, and he has a wife that hates him, and he has a son that hates him.
Yeah. And I think it's about because he's not being
true to himself.
So you kind of bring it back out of him a little bit, and
he's just a defeated man who listens to whatever his wife. Our son's gonna learn English and learn this and be a computer scientist, not be a failure like his father. She's just demeaning, and he's just like, okay, dear, okay.
Yeah, but Kiryu brings
that
spark back.
Lights that spark. I did like that little thing, and she's like, "We're gonna do this." He's like, "No, we're not. Our son's going to do what makes him." He extends up to the wife, and the son's like, because he finds out his dad was this pocket fighter, and he does research. He's like, "My dad's a superhero." He's like a kid,
basically,
finding out that his dad was a superhero 20 years ago. It's superhero
pocket circuit racing cars, but yeah.
And he grows.
It's just a weird pull so late in the franchise. Yeah,
and they do some other ones, but I don't remember them as much.
Yeah, he's a standout little character.
Yeah. But they do that a lot with a lot of this, was because it's the end. They do they tie off and bring back some other characters from other.
Yeah.
He's the only one I really remember.
I'm guessing it's big. It's got to be big in Japan. There's a whole nother baseball thing in this one where Kiryu basically runs. He plays too, doesn't he?
Well, this one is it's like simulated baseball.
Yeah.
And depending on the stats to your characters, it auto does.
Yeah, and you can recruit them through sub stories and other various. You get, we kind of had a bit of a guide here trying to figure out who the best baseball people were, so we could play as little of this as possible and win as quickly as possible. There's that. There's the clan battle thing, which is pretty big.
And that's split. And that's like, what do you call that?
Pocket Fighter comes and joins that.
Yeah, that's RTS, right?
Kinda.
Real time strategy. Kinda.
Well, it really just basically is this RTS.
Because you summon your hordes.
And then click them and tell them to move. It is just an RTS, yeah. So that's a giant sub story.
And that's split in half. You have in this city and then Kamurocho.
Yeah.
Onimichi.
Not terribly time, but you recruit those folks through sub stories as well. That was pretty big, actually bigger than I thought, because there's a whole team of these super guys you have to like take down.
Which is funny because they're actually the clan creator was in, because 2 you had the one with Goro with the Majima construction, and then the one after that game you did another one where you got these people who are supposed to be like justice fighters, because it's called Justice Fighters. You get the Justice Fighters to help keep crime down in Kamurocho. And then in this one, it's kind of cool because a lot of this stuff it refers back to previous games a lot, including Clan Creator, where you're going back and they're called Justice, but it's Justis, and there's the team that Kiryu created however long ago, and now you're building up this other clan because they've become corrupted with power. And you're bringing them all back down, and you recruit all your old leaders because someone else got to the top or whatever. They're ultimate fighters, so they're making them do bad things.
You beat them all up.
You rebeat them all up and reinstill the proper values of respect in them one fist at a time. And then there's like other story moments too, where I think there's an actual story moment where you go back to a building that's been condemned, but it was a building that all the way back in Yakuza 1 when you're going against the Chinese triad, where the building got burnt to crisp, it got bombarded, and then you actually go through there in the story, and it's just it's like people talking about it's the wake of destruction that you've left in your wake, whether you want to accept it or not. These are the consequences of your actions. And this building is where it's like this building has become a refuge for gangs and thugs and it's like no matter how much good Kiryu tries to do, he just leaves a wake of bad behind him, no matter how much good he tries to do. And it's just one of those cool things. It's like the consequences of his action. They did a really good job of like throwing stuff back, like, you caused all of this.
Yeah, like you'll have it. Is that in this one where you'll like talk to a guy and it'll show like a scene from like one of the old games, and you're just like,
in the old game graphics.
It's like, who's that guy?
Yeah.
So after that, there's the bar, which is basically a talking mini game.
Yeah.
You get both. You get, I think, just baseball people, or do you get both?
It's half and half.
Okay, so you get some. So it's just talking. We had all the answers, I think, in the guide to who to talk to. So that's just like literally sitting in a bar. It's a local bar.
You got to spend
just
money
drinks.
to go in the bar. But then
you just drink and meet people. It's all this Yakuza conversation stuff, like world building stuff. It does. There's no main plot in here, I don't think.
No, you're just becoming friendly with the people, and then as you go through each person, like, oh, I hear you're managing a baseball team, or I hear you have I'm gonna help you fight some people. I'm tired of bullies bullying me and my family.
Yeah, the weirdest one, and the one I did the least was the spear fishing.
Well, you only have to do it 3 times.
Yeah. For a sub story,
the sub stories, but they get significantly harder. It's an old school rail shooter. Like people probably play this. Like there's this like old arcade game where you put like the helmet on, and it's like a rail shooter, and you're just underwater with a spear gun. You got to shoot all the fish as they come at you and stuff like that. But it's one's fairly easy, but in order to actually master it, you got to play the game a lot.
That's only an achievement, though. That's why we don't 1K or whatever, or platinum none of the Yakuza games, because they're ridiculous. You have to play that game for hours and hours and hours on the same 3 maps just to get a certain amount of points to pop an achievement. I was like, no, I'm doing the what do you call it, the sub story, and I'm writing this off.
Well, what I did is I played it for a little bit, because you can only do the spearfishing in the daytime, because there's a daytime nighttime thing you can set up. So spearfishing,
I did a lot of Yakuza games, like certain sub stories.
So spearfishing is only available in the daytime, but there is a sub story attached to the spearfishing game that allows you to get the best pitcher in the baseball thing. And so I played the first one, beat it my second try, and I kept getting close, but I could not beat the second level. And I was like, all Yakuzas do this thing where, depending on the sub-stories you do make other sub-stories easier. So I looked and did some research, and there is about halfway through the game, you unlock a black market from doing certain stuff in the clan creator. Mm-hmm. I was like, cool, I'm not going to get angry at this. I'm just going to put a timeout, and I'm going to come back. So I played as much baseball as I could, and then I got to a point in the baseball where I was just losing every match, and I couldn't progress forward. And I'm just like, I'm not going to grind this either,
because it's going to be hours if I wanted to go back and do the one that I could win to grind to get these tickets to make your baseball guys stronger. I was like, okay, let me progress through the story and do some sub stories. Blah, blah, blah. And I got to the clan creator, did as much in the clan creator, and I got access to the black market thing, which gave me the ultimate spear gun. To the point, when I mean ultimate, I mean even if you beat the level 3 difficulty and you get that, it's not as good as this one that you can spend $100,000 on, which I'm glad I waited. Because once I got that, I rocketed through the levels, finished out those sub stories, got that baseball guy, and then I was able to spend the hours on the baseball thing and knock them. And I actually ended up mastering both of them. I actually ended up mastering the baseball one before I even got some of the best people, because that pitcher, if you're throwing no hitters, it doesn't really matter if your guys can hit or not, because all you got to do is hit one ball because they're not hitting, So that kind of fell through, and it went pretty well. But the baseball thing, it's a little like. It's That's all I can really say about that.
I can talk about a couple other things and kind of wrap it up. Like I said, I kind of mentioned how it kind of wraps up. I will notice there are parts of this game where you're running around holding the baby, and then there's still street battles. Where Kiryu, when the battle starts, he hands the baby to a pedestrian.
To
one of the onglers. He hands the baby, and then you beat the crap out of it. He takes the baby back. It's really funny.
Well, I think a lot of those, it's that mama or it's one of the Yakuza.
I thought it was just a random person in the crowd. He just hands off the baby and then beats the crap out of it, and then takes the baby back.
I think it's usually the mama that runs around with you, or one of the your
She doesn't follow you around.
She does sometimes.
I remember her following you around. She doesn't run that bar.
When she closes it a lot to help you investigate stuff. She closes it a lot. There is another area you go to. I did make note of it. It's the shipping yard, and you have that run through it's one of those, all the Yakuza have them. It's where you run through an area and you just beat the snot
crap
out
of everybody. Yeah.
And this is it was a shipping yard, and they kept dropping the containers on you. And sometimes they drop a container to block your path, and it would open up, and all these people would flood out of the container. You're just like,
is this the one where Kiryu dodges a missile?
Yeah.
This is the one where he somebody fires a rocket launcher, and he does that thing where he just dodges a rocket.
Oh no, that one was actually, I think that's in 5, where there's that massive gang where all these people.
That was on Shipyard where Kiryu dodges a rocket.
He dodges a couple of rockets.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't even talk about, I think it's in 4 where Kiryu gets into a fisticuffs with the tiger.
Is that in 4?
That's in 4. Because in 3, the dude catches the bull, and they upped it in 4 by going into that one really gaudy Yakuza boss. He wears all the gold, and he has that giant castle that it looks like, what do you call it?
That giant castle that raises out of the ground that people make fun of.
It kind of looks like Tanimura's castle. What do you call it? MXC. It kind of looks like that. It raises out of the ground. And you do some of the challenge. You dodge a giant boulder. And one of the last things you do in that one is in that castle anyways, you do battle a tiger. And then they upped it in 4, and you side jump battles a bear. But yeah, so this one's actually probably one of the more tame ones, except for that big reveal for the shipbuilders.
So there's all of the Kiryu plot, and there's always got to be something else going on with the Yakuza. And apparently they've been using government money, or I don't know. There's them Yakuza tied to this other guy in this big company, something with the government. There's all these things tied together where they've built in secret this big battleship.
Yeah, it's the biggest battleship known to mankind. Known in the world, it's the largest battleship on Earth. Yeah, that was a little.
I forget why they're the point of the ship, and it's just such a weird random. I mean, these plot lines, these other Yakuza, because there's your local Yakuza, there's a bigger Yakuza coming onto the land, and he's working with the guy who runs the shipping company, and the shipping company guy is doing something with the government, and it's all leading to this. They're doing all this, I don't know, zigzagging and crap and betraying and all this stuff they do just to have the big reveal. There's this big ship they've been hiding.
Yeah, there's been since World War II. They've been building their ship and upgrading it constantly to make the largest battleship on the world, the Yamamoto 2. And I felt
and all this is happening while Kiryu's just looking for the dad for this baby.
Yeah, he stumbles across that by accident.
That plot line, kind of stumbles into something he don't want no part of.
Because these guys know who he is. They're like, why is Kiryu here? Why is the 4th chairman of the dojo clan here in our territory? And then, I think it ends up being the weird thing where that leader, he has a legitimate son who's supposed to take over, but that legitimate son dies. And then he has a bastard son who ends up being the father to the baby. And that son takes over the clan when he dies.
A different baby.
Yeah. No. Him.
Oh, he is the son.
He's the illegitimate son.
That's right. That's why he's yeah. So
Haruto's father. Haruto's father is the illegitimate son of this clan. Who then, when he dies, he takes over. Yeah.
Gosh, it's gay.
Yeah, bloodlines and it's all about, again, it's about fathers and sons and bloodlines and legacy. It does, like, once you beat the game and you look back on it, you're like, oh, it is a lot about.
It takes that moment because when that letter's being read, it's going over like the stuff and talking about the people all these people that you've been talking to this whole game and hadn't really, maybe even, I mean, lazy like me, I hadn't really put in a whole lot of thought and I'm just punching people. But like, and as it goes, talks about the shipping yard guy, the other Yakuza family, Kiryu, and as he goes down this lane where Kiryu's talking about this, because it's all leading to Kiryu pretty much saying, I Daigo, I always saw you like a son.
I see you as my son.
Yeah, so like, and Daigo's barely in this game too. Like, there's not a whole lot of focus on Daigo across Daigo's in one of the rooftop battles in one of the games. But like Daigo pretty much takes over Kiryu's spot in the He passes it to Daigo. That's a previous game.
Daigo's the 6th chairman. There's a 5th that comes right after Kiryu. Mm-hmm. That dude who betrays him and works for the Omi Alliance and sold him out at the end of like 5. And you end up going to his grave or whatever. And then
Daigo takes over.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it makes sense because we've played the games, and I do apologize. But people who haven't played Yakuza are going, "What is going on? What's the Tojo clan? What are you guys talking about? What's the Majima family? Is the Majima family?
Who's Daigo?
Yeah, it makes sense when you've played the games. There's a lot of politicking.
7-game franchise,
and even then, like, I'm still lost in some of the politics too, because
we often am. It does a thing of like holding your hand but not holding your hand,
because 90% of the time you do get introduced to new patriarchs, new captains of the Tojo family.
I'm often not sure how they're related to what clan they're in. It takes a little bit of like paying attention to really know who. And
there's some cultural differences that I'm a little lost in,
because even the small local family that Kiryu's dealing with, I think they're part of the bigger family who's causing trouble.
They're a subsidiary,
which is crazy because the bigger family is so big that they don't know anything about this small family.
Yeah,
and these guys don't know the big guys because they're so small and localized and part of a bigger thing that they don't cross paths ever, because
this one they do.
They do for this plot.
It's revealed that the patriarch of that small town family was the hitman.
He was a freaking assassin.
He was an assassin for the patriarch. That's how he got his family.
Still kind of an assassin.
Yeah, he does. He balls. That's the other cool thing about this. Does that Japanese anime thing where don't mess with old dudes. People who are actually old. There's, especially in the Yakuza business, style of life, like in animes and stuff. You never mess with the old dude, because they're going to take their shirt off. They're going to be Master Roshi, and they're going to get super jacked.
It doesn't do that.
I mean, he flexes on you and then beats the snot out of you. He becomes like a master knife fighter. Yeah. Like all those skills, he's like, my body hasn't aged today. All the instincts are then for whatever reason, you do have to fight the dude. And he sucks. He's a very fast, and he does that thing where he's like, my shadow style, he like disappears and appears behind you. It's like, what? So much realism that is in Yakuza. There's just as much fantastical ridiculousness. Like, he doesn't disappear behind you. He throws knives at the steam, and it makes the room fill with steam, and that's what it was.
Which Yakuza game was it where they talked about the character lighting on fire? They said, like, I'll fight you, but don't do that blue fire thing.
That's a couple of them, actually.
There's only one game where because when you activate your power up, whatever it's called in each game, your character lights up.
What is it? Is it rage?
But anyway, it's never mentioned. Nobody ever talks about that because it's just a fantastical fighting thing. There's one of the Yakuza games where the guy's talking about it, and he was like, "Yeah, I'll fight you, but you can't do that blue fire stuff."
It has to be 3. No,
I don't remember what game it was, but it was 4. Funny. It was funny because they straight up referenced it. It wasn't this game, but
it was one of the ones.
Might have been 6. I don't know.
No, it wasn't 6. It was an older one because you have to deal with the Florist of Sai. You don't even interact with the Florist of Sai until 3. Mm-hmm. So and then you're doing like the underground tournament thing, and part of the thing is part of the actual that particular sub story is you can't use your rage modes. Mm. And during that fight or whatever, yeah, it was funny. Was it Buster? Was it Buster Brown?
I don't freaking remember. I just remember that
Anyway.
the only time it's ever been referenced.
Someone like referenced like none of that glowy blue stuff.
Yeah,
man.
that fantastical stuff that's never really mentioned.
But yeah, that's part of the things that makes it so endearing because of how so much realism is in there, and then it does the wacky-do stuff, and then comes back and it does like the drama. But do you want to talk? Well, I think we're almost done.
Yeah.
But the
Needless to say, we've had a great time.
yeah, like I'm so okay. Briefly, because you said you were going to talk about it. The ending, you play through 6, and you're like, this is a little boring. But the last hour, maybe, when
Awesome.
Kiryu is giving that speech about, it's like reading the letter that he wrote, and it ties the whole game together. It does bolster.
And he's gonna disappear. Mm-hmm. He's like, I'm doing everything. Everywhere I go, blah blah blah. I trouble follows. The only thing I can think to do to save everybody is to disappear. And he talks to somebody. There's somebody else helping him disappear. Dante's helping him disappear. Yeah.
Because Akiyama is it Akiyama? Yeah, because he's appeared throughout, and because of Saejima and his relation to Goro, Saejima and Goro are now the two captains underneath Daigo. They're the people in charge of protecting, and they're the most powerful people in the Tojo clan. That's where Saejima's he's becoming a revered Yakuza along with his sworn brother. He's got his dream life.
Yeah.
And Akiyama's going around. Actually, I think in this one, because of all the shenanigans that's going on, Akiyama, I don't think he faked his death, but he closed his business and he's homeless again on purpose. Remember, he's living in the sewers. You have to go find him in the sewers. He's laying low because of the stuff involving Kiryu, and he's trying to figure out why someone would try to put a hit on Tojo clan members. I forget why I went through all that.
It's too much stuff.
Yeah, I know. But yeah. But so Akiyama's in but he comes to Date, and he's like, what happened? He's like, Kiryu, he took 3 shots to the chest. He's dead. He's gonna go away.
Faking his death. Yeah.
And so it ends up, you find out shortly thereafter when it cuts back, and Kiryu says, I'll sign. Oh, he's going to sign these papers over to somebody, and it'll say that he's dead. He doesn't have any control. Oh no, he gets God, it's so complicated. He gets this dude by the short hairs, and it's the dude who's taking over this other Yakuza, where the patriarch dies of that Yakuza in the other town that's not Kamurocho, and then the general who has been working with that family, he dies, but he puts out a death. His last wish is he puts a hit on Kiryu, and then you beat up all these family members. Basically, like, you leave him to where the only person who can take over the family is the bastard son, who is Haruto's father, but he doesn't want anything to do with it. And they're like, you guys got to change your rules and take over, but you will do it peacefully, and you will sign a peace treaty with the Tojo clan and live in harmony, because if you don't, I'll publish all this information and ruin your government, ruin your city officials, because I have all this blackmail material from all the shady stuff you've been doing with the Tojo, with this other clan. And the person who is has the potential to take over says fine, he'll sign whatever documentation in front of Date-san as a witness that he'll form a peace treaty with the Tojo clan and they'll live peacefully. And if he does that, then Kiryu will die, essentially. He was like, I will be dead. The fourth chairman of the Tojo clan, Kiryu Kazuma, will be dead, and I will go away forever. And so the only people in the whole world that know that Kiryu is alive is Date-san and that guy.
Yeah. And who knows what happens, because at the time of playing that pretty epic stuff, modern times playing that, knowing Kiryu is now popped up in 3 additional games. Yeah. I don't know if he's in Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, maybe not. Kiryu shows up in Like a Dragon.
I think he's just in the prologue.
We don't know. We don't want it spoiled for us. Yeah. In between that and Yakuza, he has apparently a greater role in Infinite Wealth. In between those games, they put out Like a Dragon, The Man Who Erased His Name, which I think is more of a classic beat 'em up Yakuza stuff. Apparently it's 25 hours, maybe explaining where he's been and why he's involved now in the new. We don't know. We're not there yet. So yeah, it's kind of interesting to see that they can't let Kiryu go because
he's too good of a character.
Too good of a character. So that's 0 through 6.
And I have enjoyed the ride thoroughly.
I'm not jumping into it. I've played Judgment.
Yeah, talk about Judgment, and then we can.
this is I can't dig into Judgment. Judgment's a whole different character.
Yeah.
I forget his Yamaguchi maybe. We had to do a whole different podcast on that. It's a Yakuza game without any of the Yakuza characters. It's in Kamurocho. A lot of similar stuff. I found it to be far less interesting. The main character is more charismatic. He's been through some stuff too. As a lawyer, some bad things happened.
You said it would have been better as if they had just turned.
This should have been like
drop the baseball guy Shinada and throw this dude in there.
Yeah, this would have played out so much better as a tied to Yakuza sub story, like one of those extended B plots, maybe like you said, one of this side. Not even this would have worked so much better. Yeah, so much better as a B plot. It got a sequel, which I'm not sure. I say I won't play, but God knows I probably will. This franchise is also dead because the main character is it's his fate, it's his likeness, it's his face, it's his voice. I don't know if I don't think it was a drug. I know something else going on, like the licensing his face or something like that is null and void now. So, I thought this was going to be the beat 'em up franchise that ran alongside Like a Dragon, because Like a Dragon's going to be turn based now. I thought Judgment and Lost Judgment was going to be. They probably intended for it to be their action franchise on the side, beat 'em up franchise. It's fine if you like Yakuza. It's just it's the same but different enough that you kind of just wish you were playing, in my opinion, wish you were just playing a Yakuza game. It's much more modern, like the modern cell phones and like drones and stuff like that. A lot of more modern. And if you want to see Kamurocho kind of updated even further, and I guess even updated again in Lost Judgment, it's probably worth messing with. With that said, I think the next thing me and Blake are we're going to get into Like a Dragon eventually, but we figure to reset ourselves before moving forward, we're probably going to play Like a Dragon Ishin, which is apparently an offshoot game that's been remade and brought to modern consoles. This is the feudal era Japan one, where it's using a lot of familiar faces. Is this the one where they're using their faces, but they're playing different people?
It's like Kyoto. It's like 1605 Kyoto, Japan, feudal era.
It's got Kiryu's face and voice actor, and Majima's face and voice actor, and I'm sure a smattering of other faces that you recognize. But they're playing these. It sounds interesting. They're playing these feudal era Japan plot line. So we're going to take a step back and probably do Ishin at some point. Ishin's different enough that we'll probably get its own episode, I would think, on the podcast eventually when we do it. So we'll do Ishin at some point. And then we'll move forward and do, because technically it would be Like a Dragon 1, then Man Who Erased His Name, then Infinite Wealth, and then Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. By the time we get through this, there's going to be 6 more games. All in all, I would say we're pretty good. We're not like super fans, but we've continued through the franchise to this point, and we're going to continue playing.
Oh, yeah, I'm
and
so
very excited to play the turn-based games and stuff like that. So we're big fans. I mean, what are you going to do? What more can you say?
Exactly.
And I'm sure y'all followed the plot lines from 3 to 6 as we butchered them.
At the very least, I want you to be so like, what are they talking about? So intrigued and confused that you go and you play Yakuza and you become a Yakuza fan. That's my ultimate goal.
Oh my God. And please
Don't ask.
Stop asking what order. Every freaking post. What order should I play the games? They are numbered, people. Stop posting about the order. They are literally numbered 0 to 6. Play them in that order. This ain't like rocket science. I know numbers are tough and Americans are stupid, but like the games are numbered. I understand maybe trying to figure out when to play Ishin or when to play Man Who Erased His Name and the Infinite Wealth. Now the Like a Dragon game, they're not numbered right now. God knows if they ever will be. Because the first when Like a Dragon come out, it was called, I think they initially launched it as Yakuza 7 Like a Dragon. They scraped that and just called it Like a Dragon.
Because of how successful it was, they dropped the Yakuza name entirely.
Yeah.
And because Like a Dragon is the name for everything.
From 0 to 6, they're freaking numbered. They're all on modern consoles. They're all on everything. Don't play them on Switch. They're trash on Switch like everything else is. They're on PS4. They're on Xbox. 0 through 6. Play them. Now, if you're confused, it's 0, Kiwami 1, Kiwami 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I know it's hard, but numbers, it's 0 through 6. They go in the order that numbers go in. Okay, I know it's hard to understand. It's so hard. Like there's 2 kinds of Yakuza post. One post, I love this franchise. 2, what order do I play this in?
Yeah, you just want to.
Those are the 2. Like you just want to like. The ones who ask that, I wish you're so dumb. I wish you wouldn't play it.
Yeah,
We don't want you associated with this franchise. If you don't know how numbers work, don't play this franchise. It's just like that's not. There's so many other game franchises out there that are more difficult to understand because they're not numbered or some crazy thing. This one's literally numbered. I'm done ranting. It's just like stop posting about the order. It's like Jesus.
I do see it a lot though.
It is the main thing you see posted about it. You know.
But yeah, let's end on a happier note. Yakuza, great. I'm so looking forward to what comes next. And at this point in time, I'm like, I wonder why they haven't done Dead Souls. There's Dead Souls, and then there's the PSP one, the whatever, I think it translates to Black Panther, and it's a young street punk in Kamurocho, and they got 2 games on the PSP. I'd like to see.
It's weird, yeah.
I'd love to see those come back and do like a remaster that complete with 1 and 2 are together in like one game.
I feel like it almost has to because Ishin was an offshoot game too. Ishin isn't an original game they just made. Ishin is a remake. Ishin is one of the old games like the Dead Souls or the Black Panther one has a different name.
Well, technically there was Kinzan, which was a kind of spoof, but Ishin's an actual. They have different names, and they're actually taking them more serious in like a feudal era Japan.
Yeah. But
the Kinzan was all. It was the same thing. It was like feudal era Japan, but it was like Kiryu Mora and Majima Miyoto. Like they just like threw a little thing on the end of their name to make it seem like more Japanesey. It was like Kiryu Ranmaru or something.
Yeah, it's funny.
But then they did the Ishin. But there's also, like I said, there's Dead Souls, and then the other one is called Shinso. Yeah,
that 2 games on the PSP.
Yeah,
just port. I'll take it. You ain't got to remake if you just want to just port them. You know, if they're of a quality of the rest of the franchise, it's just ain't that hard to port a PSP game.
But it's funny because both those you have Kinzan, Dead Souls, and then the Black Panther Part 1 and Part 2 all take place before Ishin. They're all made before Ishin, and I was originally, and I was like, why won't you just put those out?
Could be some licensing. Maybe that main character's face, or maybe because they had this thing of using real people's faces. Maybe the main character.
Well, yeah, because I looked into the Judgment thing. They had 2 separate things where they had like a voice actor that they fired because of cocaine use.
God. And
then the other person they got in is he's apparently like a front man for a boy band, and they altered the likeness to match him for 2. Maybe altered it a little bit, but because they couldn't settle on money, likeness rights and stuff like that for certain things, that they're like, oh, okay, we're not doing it anymore. You can't.
Too much trouble.
So to the point they pulled the game from digital markets.
Lost Judgment. Oh wow.
But anyway,
so
love Yakuza. Looking forward to what comes next. What's the next game we'll be talking about next episode?
So we're going to talk about Final Fantasy 1 through 16 in order. No, I'm just kidding.
And all the side games.
All the side games.
Type 0 and Tactics.
No, we're going to talk about one game. This whole podcast was a whole bunch of games on modern. We're going to talk about one little RPG from our childhood. It's going to come up in there. We mention. I keep mentioning repeatedly that nostalgia is poison. This is going to be a glowing example of that pretty much because we've hunted this game down under false memories, and I spent a pretty good chunk of like change of I think I got some like random birthday money or something a couple years ago, a year or 2 ago, and I was like I'm gonna buy this freaking. It's so expensive online. Whatever, Mama gave me some birthday money. I'm gonna bite the bullet. Spend. I'll save how much I spent on it. A ridiculous amount of money to have this physical copy of this PlayStation 1 RPG. To play it and be like, oh man, this is not the game we thought it was. So that's gonna be the whole podcast.
The memories we looked at, we Googled, and we're like, oh, it's this other game. Oops.
Oops.
And when he says mama, he doesn't mean a matron of a bar. He means our actual mother.
Actual mother.
We're Southern. We say mama when we refer to our mom.
Yeah, our actual mother. It's just random birthday money.
Not some random bar matron.
So this game, I will leave with. I don't mean emulation. We don't support emulation. This game is expensive. If you find a way, whether purchasing or by other means, to play this game, maybe you can if you want to have some time before you do the podcast. Dancing around. This game is a PlayStation 1 era RPG called As Your Dreams. We're only talking about the PlayStation 1 game. Apparently, it has a almost the exact same, different, but the same game As Your Dreams is on the Game Boy Color. I watched a video of that one. It's similar, but obviously there's a difference between a Game Boy Color game and a PlayStation 1 game. It's really similar, strangely enough, but it's much harder. It's already hard enough. Yeah. But anyway, we're talking about the PlayStation 1 version of As Your Dreams. At least look up a video of what it looks like and how it plays before we dig into it. We're going to explain how it plays and stuff like that. But that's going to be our next episode. We don't know anybody else who's played this game. I don't know. But look it up at least. Give it a try if you want to. We're going to talk about it. We'll talk about how Blake beat it through nefarious means. I quit playing it, but we need to say that for that particular podcast. We're going to talk a whole lot about As Your Dreams. With that, wrap this up. I want to thank Jared and the guys of Emerge for letting us use the song "Letting Go" for the podcast. It's the best part of the podcast probably, and now it's the best part of any of our online videos, as the song is used now again with our intro video that has a bit of Kiryu ripping his shirt off in the video. That song's on there. Then our cousin on our last episode, Daniel, he's the one who edited that video together for us, did an awesome job. So go check out his channel. He's still continuing the Time Splitters. I
think he did episode 4 just recently.
4 or 5.
Part 4.
Part 4, yeah. His Time Splitters series is still going, so go check out his channel on YouTube for Zakovius. Clyde's still got his stuff going. We mentioned our previous guest, Clyde, still doing the Not Your Friend videos on YouTube.
He just dropped a new episode last week.
Yeah, because go keep, stay on top of him. Again, with Emerge, they posted the other day about new music coming again. So they've already got a couple of new songs out, more new music. I don't know if the post. I like these teaser posts. It's like hashtag new music. I was like, is this the album or is this another song? Who knows? I could just message Jared and ask him, I guess. But follow Emerge on all your social media. They've been landing lots of really cool tours and stuff like that. Really cool dates. Support them on their music when it comes out. We'll probably end up playing the song on here if the new distribution website will let us without ripping it away from us.
And a slight tease: if everything goes well, we do already have a lineup for our next guest too. Just as a tease for that.
Yeah.
If everything goes accordingly,
if we can line it up, it's what's that?
We just teasing. Don't even mention, but just a tease.
Well, you're teasing it because of what we're talking about.
Don't just continue. Don't say anything.
That's extra confusing because it's related to Emerge. Anyway, another guest may possibly lined up. What else? Devious.Pixel, aka Milad Markovic, does the art for this podcast. He did the new, if you saw it, the new art for Zakovius art with it, which is our cousin, pretty much the Time Splitters guy, Cortez, but it's Daniel's face with this big old beard and hair with Cortez's weird little red dot glasses he wears, surrounded by portals. The art looks awesome per usual. Never disappointed with anything Devious does for us. So there's always that. I want to thank him for doing that kind of stuff for us. What am I forgetting? The YouTube, our podcast is now on YouTube. Blake's whole RoboCop thing is on YouTube now. Twitch.tv/Two-Spoken Controllers for our every Wednesday for we're currently still running through Dark Souls 1. I don't know if I forgot anything.
I think we covered it.
Oh, Purple Brian.
He's Brian.
Hell, give Brian back-to-back over 2-hour podcasts. Sorry about that, buddy. But thanks for the time you spend with this and pretty much pulling us through Dark Souls 1 right now with your big old stick.
And with that being said, I want to wish everybody a good evening and good night.